Chapter 981. Endless sirens rang through the entire two-lane road leading from Wuxia County to the depths of the scenic area. The densely packed police cars were like ants moving house, drawing long shadows on the road. In the police station inside the entrance of the scenic area, Old Shen's face was even paler. He was desperately urging his colleagues in the station. "Hurry up! All of you, hurry up!" He pointed at the intersection outside. "The police cars from the county branch are already in front of us. If we don't hurry up, we'll be punished. We'll all be in trouble." Among the 8 or 9 colleagues, many of them still looked extremely sleepy. It was obvious that they had just rushed over from their respective homes. Most of the staff in the scenic area police station lived in the city. The branch and a few police stations in the border city had already started moving, so these people either stared at their cars or rode electric cats to the scenic area police station. This was just a small scenic area police station, and only a few of the regular staff could afford their own cars. Moreover, when they heard that they were going to be dispatched, even if they had cars, they were smart enough to choose another route. No one was willing to drive their own car to the police station. "Chief Shin, we're all here, but there's only one van and one Jetta. It seems like we can't finish all of them." The deputy chief spoke as he took out a bottle of mineral water from the tail of the van and poured it down his head. He had no choice, as he had to drive later, so he needed to be refreshed. Old Shen first looked at the others, and calculated in his mind for about 10 seconds. Then he gritted his teeth and said, "All those above 30, get in the van. Young lads under the age of 30, you can go find your own bicycles, electric kittens, or borrow motorcycles from nearby. Even if you can't get anything, you have to walk over here. Let's go." This scene was happening in many police stations further away in Wuxia County. Even in an Air Force training base about 100 kilometers away from here, 3 military helicopters that were in combat mode also took off without warning. As for the Wuxia County Armed Police Squadron, they had gathered and set off even before the police system had reacted. Now they were at the very front. It was the duty of the soldiers to obey orders, and so were the police officers. They didn't need to care about why they had to be dispatched. They only needed to get ready and set off after the order was given, and then appear at the place where they were needed within the stipulated time. Even though Old Shen didn't know the reason why they had to be dispatched so urgently, he subconsciously felt that it might have something to do with Bao and Song. But now he could not ask about it. Many people knew that he was close to Dan and Song, but in the face of such a major issue, he had to make his stand clear. All of a sudden, the entire Wuxia County shook violently. This was no longer as simple as 3 tremors. This was a magnitude 8 earthquake. The head of the Kainan Province's military, who was directly in charge of this matter, and the head of the Kainan Province's police system, who was coordinating with him, shivered uncontrollably at the thought of this terrifying situation. Just now, they were worried that Wuxia County didn't know the seriousness of the matter and would reveal Jiang Yage's true identity. That was why County Magistrate who said those words when he was talking to Fortune Bag. Under normal circumstances, even if a senior Chinese official had corruption or made some mistakes in principle, he wouldn't be sentenced to death as long as the impact wasn't too severe. However, if something were to happen to Jiang Yage in Wuxia, the Bao father and son, as well as the entire Wuxia County's officialdom, which had been entangled with the Bao father and son for so many years, would definitely be destroyed. Even the heads of 10 people might not be enough. At this time, Bao and Song, who had caused a huge disaster, still didn't know what kind of hornet's nest he had poked. In order not to be affected by his meddlesome father, he even turned off his mobile phone and used the phone of the lackey he had pulled over to contact the lackey at the intersection. At this time, he was sitting in the middle of a 7-seater Toyota Prado with a face full of excitement and pride. There was also a Hyundai Tucson behind the Prado, and he had pulled a total of 9 people in the 2 cars, most of whom were his best buddies. There were 8 people in the 2 cars who had participated in the killing of the female student. Among this group of people, there was only one young man who was newly called. It was said that he was the son of a hunter in the mountains and was especially familiar with the mountainous areas. Bao and Song was also thinking of finding an accomplice that his father wouldn't expect to use his mobile phone. As for his other buddies, They had all turned off their mobile phones under his request. Woo 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 woo. Sobs could be heard coming from the last row of the Prado, and the back of Bao and Song's chair was being kicked. He was a little impatient and straightened his body to push the girl's leg down. What are you screaming for? Are you afraid now? Weren't you very capable before? Didn't you think that you were a big shot? Did you think that I wouldn't dare to touch you? Why don't you find out what kind of person I, Bao and Song am? Do you think you're the first celebrity to fall into my hands? To tell you the truth, I, Bao and Song, have never failed to sleep with a woman I want to sleep with. Bao and Song couldn't help but feel proud. As he said these words, his mind was thinking of all the tapes, CDs, and VCDs he had collected over the years. Jiang Yage looked so youthful and invincible in the movies and MV. It wouldn't be long before he would trample on her pride and make her cry under his body. Actually, with his previous habits, he might not even need to take her away. He could just do it in the hotel room. After that, no one would be able to let out a fart. But in the end, he changed his mind and chose to tie her mouth, then use a sack to tie her up, carry her down, and stuff her into the car. The reason was very simple. Others didn't dare to stop him, but Qin Guang did. Although he had a gun, Bao and Song was also afraid that if Qin Guang came in and killed him, he would be caught off guard. That slap was very vicious, and no one would be able to take it. Besides, this time, he didn't want to be the only one who was comfortable. Because of Qin Guang and Jiang Yage, he and his father had lost face. He wanted to completely destroy Jiang Yage, both physically and mentally. So, he had to find another place where no one would disturb him. He and his brothers who were with him today would serve her well. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to feel at ease. She was lucky to be able to survive, and he could just let her go after that. Bao and Song wasn't afraid that she would sue him. What a joke! Did celebrities still want to earn money? If she was an ordinary woman, she might really go all out and sue him. But this was Jiang Yage, who was famous for her youthful image. Besides, Bao and Song wasn't afraid that she would sue him at all. No one could do anything about what happened in Bai Shui's territory. If she was unlucky, she would die. Bao and Song didn't think it was a big deal. He would dig a hole in the mountain and bury her. This wasn't the first time. He even made the people who went upstairs wear headgear, which was rare. This time, he was much more careful than before. The girl, who was trapped in the back, seemed to become even more irritable after hearing Bao and Song's words. She bent her leg and wanted to kick his backrest, still whimpering. Don't waste your energy. Think about how you're going to serve me and my brothers later. If you perform well, you might still be able to live. At this moment, the old-fashioned phone in Bao and Song's hand rang. It was a call from the informant hiding in the bushes at the intersection. Young Master Bao. Bad news. Bad news. Bao and Song scolded impatiently. Stop talking nonsense. What exactly is it? Hurry up and say it. Did old Shin bring his men out? The person on the phone seemed to be too nervous and stuttered. Then why are you so surprised? Bao and Song was about to hang up. So many police cars. So many police cars are following behind 8 trucks from the county. I feel that all the police officers in the county are on the move. It's so densely packed that I can't even count how many of them are there. Bao and Song was so shocked that he almost dropped the phone in his hand. Brake. Hurry up and brake. After a short moment of confusion, he hurriedly shouted. At this moment, the off-road vehicle was driving back. From what the informant said, based on the commotion, it seemed that the entire nest had been mobilized, and the road would definitely be blocked. If he were to drive back in this direction, wouldn't he be walking right into a trap? Young Master Bao, the informant on the phone spoke again. What's the matter now? I've been discovered. The informant hiding in the bushes had a strong flashlight shining on his eyes, and he couldn't see anything clearly. A cold and dark muzzle was pointing at his head from the side. Bao and Song cursed, F***C. After that, he hung up the phone. His mind was extremely confused. Didn't he just kidnap a celebrity? Was this necessary? What exactly was going on? It was one thing for the police to be mobilized, but why did the armed police also take action? It wasn't worth it, right? He took out his phone, which had been switched off, and was a little hesitant. He wanted to turn on the phone and call his dad, but when he thought of Moneybag's insistence on placing him under house arrest, he couldn't help but feel a little indignant. He turned his head and looked at the young man beside him, who was dressed like a country bumpkin but had a fierce face. Huzi, are you familiar with this mountain? The young man called Huzi grinned. Brother Bao, it's not that I'm bragging, but in this area, even with my eyes closed, I can go into the mountains to hunt for deer to go with your wine. That's good. Bao and Song gritted his teeth. Get out of the car. All of you, get out of the car. Bao and Song shouted and was the first to jump out of the car. He then called Huzi and another strong young man to carry the woman trapped in the black sack. Young Master Bao, this car, don't bother about it. Anyway, it's stolen from your garage. Later, you can tell your dad that it was stolen. Who cares if he believes it or not? Anyway, we can get away with it. At Bao and Song's command, the group of 9 jumped off the road, turned around, and ran deep into the mountains. No matter how many people there were, as long as they couldn't catch them in the act, they could just make a detour and go back. How big of a deal is it? It must be that Huzi who is pretending to agree but secretly opposing, wanting to mess with me and my dad. Damn it, I have something on you, I'll deal with you later. But almost at the same time, at the campsite, Chen Guang, who had just returned to his tent to lie down for less than half an hour, was woken up by someone shouting. It was Big Beard Deng's voice, coming from a distance and getting closer, as if he was shouting and running at the same time. Actually, when Big Beard Deng shouted for the first time, the alert Chen Guang had already woken up, but he was wrapped in his sleeping bag, so it took some effort to unzip it and get out. Chen Guang, who was only wearing his long johns, opened the tent and walked out. Uncle, what's wrong? Did something happen? As Chen Guang asked, he craned his neck to look around the campsite. Other than a bear attacking the campsite, he really couldn't think of anything else that could make Big Beard so flustered. At this moment, Jiang Yage also poked her head out from her tent, and with sleepy eyes, she asked, Big Beard, what's wrong? At the same time, more and more people in the campsite poked their heads out from their tents to look around. Big Beard Deng looked flustered, his clothes disheveled, his hair disheveled, and he was still holding his phone with the screen lit up. He first looked at Chen Guang, then at Jiang Yage. His mind was still thinking about the deafening news from the phone call, but he was also thinking about Jiang Yage's identity. He took a deep breath, then shouted at Jiang Yage, Bad news. Jiang Yage, you've been kidnapped. In the huge camp, similar voices of surprise rose and fell one after another, especially Jiang Yage's voice was the loudest. What the hell? Chapter 982. Aren't I right here? Jiang Yage stretched her hand out from the zipper of the tent and pointed at her own face, completely dumbfounded. Big Beard Deng was stunned. His half-asleep mind slowly became clear. That's right. Then what was that phone call just now? By Shuia's county head who called to inform me that you were kidnapped by a few masked men at the scenic hotel. After a brief moment of confusion, Jiang Yage's expression changed. It's over. It was Shi Lu who had been kidnapped. I let her sleep in my room, and she didn't remove her makeup. She must have mistaken me for her. Big Beard Deng sat on the ground. His old friend Shi Changha's exhortations were still ringing in his ears. I'll *CK him. He never expected that nothing would happen to Shi Lu as a stunt double. Instead, she would be mistaken for Jiang Yage and kidnapped while she was resting. Even if those people masked their faces, it was obvious that the only person in Bai Shuiha County who could do such a thing was Bao and Song, that unlucky rich kid. This bastard's guts were so fat that they were about to explode. Chen Guang instantly understood the situation, and his face darkened. It wasn't strange that the other party kidnapped the wrong person. Big Beard pursued perfection when filming. The stunt makeup he did for Shi Lu was to recreate Jiang Yage's appearance. Moreover, the other party must have rushed into the room to kidnap Shi Lu. The lighting wasn't good, so it wasn't strange for them to kidnap the wrong person. Perhaps someone in the hotel had leaked the information to Bao and Song, and he knew that it was Jiang Yage's room. It was just that Jiang Yage ran out on her own, and no one noticed that the person in the room had changed. Although Chen Guang and Shi Lu had some conflicts during the filming of Thunderstorm, she apologized again and again, and Chen Guang knew that she didn't have any bad intentions, so he didn't care about it anymore. Later on, seeing that she was quite motivated, Chen Guang actually quite admired her. Recently, he had been giving her some pointers on her acting skills from time to time. Chen Guang knew that this little girl might have some feelings for him, but he didn't want to cause any more trouble, so he deliberately kept his distance. Gradually, her youthful feelings faded away, and she simply worshipped him. Now that she had become a scapegoat for Jiang Yage, Chen Guang felt that he could not ignore it. "Do you know where the kidnappers went? I'll go save them." As Chen Guang spoke, he turned back into the tent, took out his coat, and quickly put it on. Big Beard seemed to be a little hesitant. He didn't want Chen Guang to take the risk, but when he thought of his skills, he felt at ease. Although he was bare-handed, the power of his slap was equivalent to holding a grenade in his hand. In addition, he seemed to have held a special position in the past. Maybe he was even more powerful than the Soldier King in the novel that a certain producer had recommended to him. Big Beard was also very anxious. After all, that was his niece that his old friend had asked him to take good care of. If something really happened, he couldn't explain it to Xianxia. Now that Chen Guang set off from here, he might arrive faster than the police. So, he really had to count on him. After County Head, who said that the kidnappers were kidnapped, he drove 2 SUVs in the direction of the county town. This road in the scenic area is a dead-end road, and there's only one direction in the county town. Now, all the people in the county town have been mobilized, and the armed police have also been mobilized. If we're lucky, we might be able to catch them on their way back. But it seems that they've sent spies at the intersection. We can't rule out the possibility that the kidnappers abandoned the cars and went into the mountains. All the police and armed police have been mobilized? Chen Guang asked. Big Beard nodded. That's right. After all, they thought that the person who was kidnapped was Jiang Yage. As old Deng spoke, he turned his head to look at Jiang Yage. He didn't know if he should feel lucky or have a headache. Even if it was Shi Lu, it wouldn't be a good thing. All right, I'll go save them. As Chen Guang spoke, he turned and was about to leave. Jiang Yage suddenly rushed out of the tent. She was also very agile and had actually dressed up. Wait a minute, I'll go with you. What are you going to do? Big Beard Deng immediately wanted to dissuade her. But Jiang Yage went straight to Chen Guang. I was the one who let Shi Lu stay in my room, and she was thought to be kidnapped. I can't just sit back and do nothing. Old Deng still wanted to stop her. What can you do to help? Unexpectedly, Chen Guang nodded vigorously. That's right. Get on my back. I'll carry you. That way it'll be faster. Chen Guang agreed to Jiang Yage's seemingly unreasonable request. The reason was simple. Even though there were many people here, the safest place was undoubtedly by his side. There was no other choice. Anyway, the speed of running alone or running with her on his back was about the same. Instead of leaving her here, it was better to bring her with him. If he left, that rich second-generation surnamed Bo realized that he had caught the wrong person and boldly came back. Then he would be lured away, leaving his rear defenseless. If Jiang Yage was really kidnapped, it would be a big problem. Jiang Yage flew to Chen Guang's back. Big Beard still wanted to dissuade her. This isn't good. Isn't Solomon more of a hindrance than a help? Don't take her with you, okay? It's not safe. Chen Guang waved his hand. There's nothing unsafe about it. She's the safest with me. In order to dispel Big Beard's doubts, Chen Guang didn't have time to explain to him slowly. There was a basketball-sized stone next to him. Chen Guang held Jiang Yage's buttocks with his right hand and kicked the stone with his left foot. He then clenched his left hand into a fist and punched the stone in the middle of the air. With a loud explosion, the stone that Chen Guang's fist hit instantly exploded into a torrential downpour of pear blossoms. The pear blossoms scattered into the forest, startling countless birds. 2 or 3 trees in the distance slowly collapsed. It was obvious that the stone had broken their trunks. Big Beardy and the crew members behind him were dumbfounded. Their minds were in a daze. What was this? Human shotgun? No human cannon? This guy could turn grass, trees, flying stones into knives, spears, swords, and halberds. Everyone couldn't help but sympathize with the group of people who had kidnapped Shilu. Regardless of whether Shilu was hurt or not, those people were probably going to die. Okay, if there's nothing else, I'm leaving. Mr. Chen, let's go together. A few stunt doubles wanted to follow. But this time, Chen Guang didn't want to waste any more time. He ran forward with Jiang Yage on his back. He said loudly, "No need. Be careful here in case the kidnappers have accomplices. Just don't let anything else happen." Before he could finish his sentence, he and Jiang Yage had already disappeared hundreds of meters away. In the distance, only a spot of light could be seen shooting away. It should be Jiang Yage holding a strong flashlight that the crew used to illuminate the area. What kind of speed was that? Usain Bolt won the Olympic gold medal only because you didn't participate in the Olympics. You're not a leg but a pair of flaming wheels, right? Director Deng, should we inform the people in Baishuya County that the kidnappers caught the wrong person? Old Ma, who was dressed crookedly, poked his head out from beside Big Beard and asked. Big Beard shook his head. No, tell everyone to pack up. We'll gather at the hotel first. I think the police will be here soon. We might have to go into the mountains to help search for the kidnappers. Inform the others too. Don't tell the police that the kidnapped person is not Jiang Yage, but Shilu. Old Ma was stunned for a moment, then suddenly understood. Got it. Big Beard's consideration was understandable. He thought that the kidnapped person was Jiang Yage, so all the military and police in Baishuya County had been mobilized. But if they knew that Jiang Yage was safe and sound and that the kidnapped person was just another small star, even if she was the niece of the famous director Xianxia and had some status, there was no doubt that she was far inferior to Jiang Yage. The other party's search and rescue efforts, and even their attitude towards this matter, would be greatly weakened. This was not difficult to understand. It was a very common understanding of the world. Xianxia had some status in the entertainment industry, but his niece was just a relative of an artist. She could not be mentioned in the same breath as a talented girl like Jiang Yage. Hiding a little information and telling a white lie would not change the other party's ultimate goal of searching for the hostage. Instead, it would make the military and police involved in the mission maintain a higher degree of attention on this matter. Even for the grassroots police, it was the same to save whoever was saved. As long as they gave the order, they could search the mountains and pursue the kidnappers. But the people Big Beard Deng wanted to hide were the middle and high-level officials like county magistrate who, in order to protect their positions, they would definitely work harder to mobilize all the resources they could. If it were Shilu, she would definitely not receive such treatment. The earlier they rescued her, the earlier Shilu would be out of danger, and the less likely she would be hurt. Even if it was just a 1 in 1,000 chance, Big Beard Deng was willing to bear the responsibility of hiding the information. He was not afraid of being investigated later. On the other side, Wang and Song and the rest got out of the car and went deeper into the mountains. Hu Zi was not bragging. As a professional hunter, he actually carried a portable GPS device with him. With this device, it was much more convenient to locate them. They hurried along the way. Brother Bao, where should we go now? Hu Zi was in charge of leading the way, but he did not have a clear direction. We've already gotten out of the car and ran for about 10 minutes. We're almost a kilometer away. If we go any further, we'll really be deep in the mountains. Wang and Song urged, so what if we're deep in the mountains? Hurry up. Hurry up. Hu Zi shone the flashlight in front of them. What they saw was a rather dense forest. The wind blowing out of the forest had a damp and cold smell. Here, we're still considered a human settlement that has been cleaned up from time to time. But after passing through this forest, we might encounter wild beasts if we go further in. Wang and Song asked, will there be ferocious beasts? Hu Zi nodded. That's possible. Bears are the most common. Chapter 983. Wang and Song asked again, then where do we go from here? How long will it take to get there? Hu Zi did not slow down and replied without hesitation, If we walk straight ahead for about 25 miles, we will reach the neighboring county's Maji town. If my dad and I go hunting in the mountains, we can reach there in about 5 to 6 hours. But Master Wang, you are not familiar with the roads in the mountains, and we are carrying a person. I estimate that it will take at least 8 hours to reach Maji town. Wang and Song thought for a while. We are not afraid of wild beasts, we have 3 guns, but the person we are carrying, he wanted to let them leave the sack here, but he was reluctant to do so. It wasn't that he was worried that Jiang Yage would die here. He didn't care about Jiang Yage's life or death at all. It was just that he had spent so much effort today and alarmed so many people. So far, he hadn't even had a sip of soup before leaving Jiang Yage here, which made him feel very uncomfortable. Let her come down and walk by herself. Why does she have to carry it? She saves energy, but I am tired. Another person who was carrying the sack with Hu Zi said while panting. Wang and Song squeezed the gun in his hand and thought that it made sense. That's true. Shi Lu wanted to hit Wang and Song the moment she was put down, but the black muzzle was pointed at her head. Wang and Song said coldly, "You are messing around, why don't you try again?" Shi Lu froze on the spot. Her adrenaline was still stimulating the top of her head, but her remaining rationality told her that the man in front of her might really shoot. I am still young, I cannot die here. I must think of a way to survive. Shi Lu stopped fooling around. Instead, she turned her head and looked around. She knew from the beginning that these people had already brought her into the mountain. As far as she could see, the mountain was pitch black. I will pretend to walk with them, and when they are not paying attention, I will turn around and run deep into the dark mountains. Maybe I can escape. If I really can't escape and these people want to use force, I will fight with them, even if I am killed in one shot. But now, I cannot give up until the last moment. I won't mess around. Shi Lu forced herself to calm down, and then pretended to be timid as she replied. Actually, she didn't need to pretend. She was really scared at this moment. It's good that you're sensible. Let's go. Follow in front. Dang and Song grinned smugly. Seeing that she was so obedient, he thought of Jiang Yage's cold and aloof demeanor at the banquet yesterday. Now, she was like a frightened rabbit, and he felt a strange sense of accomplishment. As for Chen Guang, he carried Jiang Yage on his back and walked back the way they came. In less than 2 minutes, they passed by the hotel in the scenic area, which was now in a mess. At this moment, the assistant director was leading a group of people to make a scene at the hotel, accusing the hotel management of being irresponsible. Who would dare to come up and kidnap someone? The hotel knew that there was definitely a mole among their own people, but they couldn't catch the mole in such a short time. The people that Wang Tsang found were all local gangsters, and they were familiar with the hotel's layout. They ran out of the fire escape after kidnapping the people, and the hotel didn't notice anything at all. Of course, even if they found out, if the mole revealed his identity, the hotel wouldn't be able to do anything to Wang Tsang and his group. They had been acting like tyrants in Wuxia County for a long time. Jiang Yage, who was lying on Chen Guang's back, saw the commotion and asked, "Should we go over and help?" Chen Guang shook his head. "No, the police will deal with it when they arrive. These are all small matters. We just need to save the people first. Turn off the flashlight." "But isn't it because we can't see the road?" Jiang Yage didn't understand. Chen Guang patted her butt. "Actually, the flashlight is for you to light the way. I don't need to look." "Why?" "I practice kung fu to support night vision." In this regard, Chen Guang really wasn't bragging. There were more than 400,000 kinds of martial arts in Wuxia. Among them, there were no less than 10,000 that strengthened eyesight. After coming out to the real world, although the power of his martial arts was weakened due to the weakening of yin and yang qi, he was able to use his eyes to see the road clearly with the help of the weak starlight and moonlight in the sky. It was no different from daytime. Jiang Yage didn't believe it at first. After trying to turn off the flashlight for more than a minute, Chen Guang was still walking as if he was flying. He wasn't affected at all. "You really have night vision? What else? Do you think I'm bragging? 360-degree soft night vision illuminates your beauty. Stop talking nonsense. We are in a hurry to save people." I didn't slow down. Didn't you notice that we are almost flying? Chen Guang really wasn't joking. At this time, under the burst of his internal strength, he could cover more than 10 meters in a step. However, most of his strength was used to push forward. He didn't raise his height much, so Jiang Yage didn't feel it was obvious. The two of them ran forward for nearly 10 minutes. They arrived at the place where Nam Yunkang and his group abandoned the car before the armed police. They saw two SUVs parked on the side of the road. Chen Guang touched the hood of the Overlord. It's still hot. The engine has been off for almost half an hour. Jiang Yage was surprised. How do you know? Chen Guang didn't explain to her. It would be complicated if he explained it. As the invincible god of racing, he was familiar with the performance of all the cars in the world. The Overlord was a large SUV that sold well. Chen Guang was even more familiar with it. He was very familiar with the structure of the car. When the engine was working, the speed at which the heat dissipated after the engine was off. He had a basic idea of the temperature of the car when the engine was running. His guess in half an hour might not be completely accurate, but it was close. Then, where did they escape to? Jiang Yage turned her head and looked around. She felt that both sides of the road were dense forests. It was so quiet that there wasn't any sense of direction. Should I call the police? Jiang Yage asked again. Chen Guang shook his head. No need. I know where they went. I also know that Shi Lu is being carried by someone. How did you know? Chen Guang slapped her but heavily again. Don't ask so many whys. Are you 100,000 whys or something? Save them first. All right, that's true. Chen Guang turned around and carried Jiang Yage into the forest. He didn't slow down at all. After 2 or 3 steps, thunder roared in the sky. In an instant, bean-sized raindrops poured down. Even though the leaves were dense, it couldn't stop them for a moment. In less than 30 seconds, large droplets of water began to patter down on the mountain forest. Jiang Yage was still lying on top of Chen Guang, her chest pressed tightly against his back. The sky and earth were filled with the pitter-patter of the heavy rain, but Jiang Yage's heart was exceptionally calm. This was because she realized that no matter how heavy the rain was, or how heavy the raindrops were, they couldn't land on her. The large raindrops passed through the forest and fell from the sky. However, they would always explode about 3 feet above her and Chen Guang's head, and then turn into water that flowed in all directions. It was as if there was a transparent umbrella above their heads. This must be some kind of kung fu of his. It was really amazing. This is bad. As the two of them ran, Chen Guang suddenly stopped in his tracks. What's wrong? The ground is a little soft. Previously, when Wu Song and his group passed by, they more or less left some footprints. Now that the rain is too heavy, I'm afraid that their footprints will be washed away soon. Chen Guang frowned as he stared ahead. His speed had unknowingly slowed down, and it was getting harder and harder to distinguish the footprints. Then what should we do? Jiang Yage said anxiously. Chen Guang put her down. Come down first, I'll think of a way. As he spoke to Jiang Yage, Chen Guang looked up at the sky. It was a pity that he hadn't learned how to track and capture special agents. If he had known that this would happen, he would have looked for Dai Quan, the leader of Xinxing clan, to learn some skills. At this moment, he wanted to make a last-minute effort, but the Holy Grail was left in the satchel at the side of the tent. It was a good idea to wait for the police here. One spirit gave birth to Tai Chi gave birth to Yin and Yang gave birth to the 4 phases, and the 4 phases gave birth to the 8 trigrams, and so on. According to Chen Guang's understanding, essence of the spirit was all-encompassing and covered a wide range of things. It could be the inner strength accumulated in the body when a martial artist practiced inner strength, or it could be the fresh air that ordinary people breathed in to strengthen their bodies. At this moment, the air that Chen Guang was smelling was hidden under all kinds of smells, but it was a wisp of essence of the spirit. He had occasionally felt it before, but he had never understood it as clearly as he did now. This meant that the concentration of essence of the spirit had increased, at least twice as much as before. As for the glow in the water droplets on his fingertips, It belonged to another kind of power, a higher level power. It was the power of the Holy Grail released by his heavenly Holy Grail. This power was purer and more original, and even made the supernatural ability of the Earthburner in his body more active, as if it was cheering and jumping for joy. Chen Guang did not know what was going on. He did not open any world in the cup, but why did the power of the Holy Grail and the essence of heaven and earth suddenly become more intense? Is it because I am in a hurry to save someone, so I am highly nervous, and the heavenly Holy Grail automatically cooperated with me? That's not right. This feeling did not suddenly appear today, but had been lingering ever since he returned from the Baylor Mountain of the Shattered World. Previously, the power of the Holy Grail in this world had always been becoming more intense, and this trend had never stopped. It was only today that the quantitative change finally triggered a qualitative change, crossing a certain boundary. At this moment, Dan and Song and his group of 9 people were escorting Shi Lu, braving the heavy rain and stepping on the mud, moving forward with difficulty. Chapter 984. Brother Bao, were 2F** King unlucky. Hu Zi grumbled as he chopped down the bushes in front of him. Why is it raining so heavily for no reason? Bao and Song glared at him. Isn't this your fault? Didn't you say that you know the situation in the mountains like the back of your hand? Didn't you feel anything when it rained so heavily? Hu Zi scratched his head. Speaking of which, it's strange. Usually, when my dad and I go hunting in the mountains, we can smell the moisture in the air with just a twitch of our noses. We can tell if it's going to rain or how heavy it will be. But today, when we got out of the car and ran, I smelled it. There were almost no clouds in the sky, and there were no signs of rain. Look, there aren't any clouds yet. This weather is too weird. Stop talking nonsense and lead the way. Brother Bao, why don't we think of a way to go back? The rain can wash away the footprints we left earlier, and the police dogs don't like our smell. This is a good thing, but it's also a bad thing. The road has become more difficult to walk. Based on the current situation, we might not be able to reach Maji Town in another 10 hours. I'm not afraid, but I'm afraid that you guys and this woman won't be able to hold on. Hu Zi pointed to Shi Lu, who was surrounded by the crowd. She was limping, and her face was covered in rain and mud. She looked extremely pathetic. When it rains, it pours. Shi Lu's luck index today was as high as 10,000 points. When she was walking just now, she accidentally slipped and fell, and her ankle might have been sprained. Now, not to mention suddenly running away, it took all her strength just to stand. Bao and Song looked at Shi Lu impatiently. Jiang Yage, hurry up. Don't dilly-dally, or I'll shoot you and let you feed the wolves here, believe it or not. Shi Lu trembled. She knew that she had been made a scapegoat, but she didn't expose her identity. Instead, she gritted her teeth without saying a word and forced herself to keep up with Hu Zi's pace. She lowered her head and didn't make a sound. Hu Zi turned back and said, Brother Bao, don't make such jokes when we're in the mountains. A joke. Don't talk about wolves. Although the most ferocious beasts in this mountain are bears and tigers, the biggest threat to humans is the wolf pack. They form groups and attack from the front and back, unlike lone bears. Some wolves aren't even afraid of gunshots when their ferocious nature kicks in. Dan and Song curled his lips nonchalantly. I'm just saying. I won't really come. Sigh, if you believe it, it won't work if you don't believe it. When we're in the mountains, we have to be careful with our words. Alright, I won't say anything. Do we continue forward or go back? Tiger asked again. Wang and Song hesitated for a moment, then took out his phone. He thought that if he walked further in, his phone would probably lose signal. Should he call his father and ask what the situation was like outside? If he scolded her, she would just beg for mercy. If he scolded her too harshly and she didn't listen, she would just hang up and turn off her phone. Let me ask about my dad first. Saying so, Wang and Song turned on his phone. Before he could unlock it, the caller ID lit up. It was Ma Song, the captain of Tong Yuan's bodyguards. Perhaps he had been calling non-stop for the past hour. Picking up the call, Ma Song's voice came through. Boss, it's connected. Master Wang has turned on his phone. Give me the phone. This was Wang Fatai's voice. Hearing his father's tone, Wang Nsong subconsciously wanted to beg for mercy again. Dad, Wang Fatai interrupted Wang Nsong. You little rascal! Do you know how big of a disaster you've gotten yourself into? Wang Nsong was a little indignant. It's not a big deal. I just kidnapped a female celebrity. It's not like I haven't done it before. You still have the cheek to say it. Why can't I say it? Dad, don't worry. I know the psychology of these celebrities very well. As long as I don't break her arms or legs, she won't be able to make a fart if she still wants to earn money in the future. Don't be fooled by how innocent they pretend to be in front of others. God knows how many masters they have to serve in a year. For people like them, no matter how much I torture them, they won't make a fuss. Otherwise, their reputation will be in tatters. I'll record a video of her later. She's even more afraid than I am. T. Moneybag was about to go crazy from anger. What kind of situation was this? His stupid son was still saying such reckless words. He remembered what county magistrate who had told him just now. Although he still didn't know Jiang Ye's identity, it was impossible for the two top military and political leaders of Kainan province to call him at the same time. If county magistrate who could say that if she lost a hair he, as the county magistrate, would have to run away, and if Jiang Ye lost a hair, he would have to shoot Peng Nsong, then her background must be beyond his imagination. Dad, don't be like this. If you only know how to scold me, I'll switch off my phone again. Wait. Hearing that his unlucky and stupid son was going to switch off his phone again, Wang Fatai was afraid of him. His tone became gentler. Son, listen to me. Wang Nsong's heart skipped a beat when he heard that Wang Fatai's tone had become unprecedentedly gentle. An inexplicable sense of danger rose in his heart, and he could no longer be tough. Instead, he felt a little flustered. That happened? Wang Fatai's tone became gentler. It's all my fault. I spoiled you too much, and that's why you developed such a personality. I used to think that it was all your mother's fault, but now that I think about it, I'm no better. Dad, don't interrupt me. Listen, time is of the essence, so I'll make it short. Run away now and don't come back. The further, the better. Is it that serious? I'm not joking with you. Jiang Ye has a powerful background. Even if you return her unharmed, I'm afraid things won't end well. According to some people, you have to be killed on the spot for the rest of us to survive. I'm already prepared to run away. Don't look back either. The further, the better. County head who had misjudged Wang Fatai. All along, Wang Fatai had always been decisive and strict with Wang Nsong in the eyes of outsiders. As a result, County head Hu and the others felt that he didn't have much affection for his good-for-nothing son. That was why County head Hu had blurted out that he wanted to kill Wang Nsong in advance. He had even hoped that Wang Fatai would have some way to contact Wang Nsong and calm him down before taking action himself. But Wang Fatai would never eat his cubs. All along, he was the one who was most protective of his cubs. His wife was just a way for him to save face. No matter how much he tried to push the blame onto his wife, if it wasn't for him, the head of the household, who had turned a blind eye to it and helped Bang Nsong clean up his mess every time, how could he have raised such a foolish son who didn't care about the consequences? All right. Wang Nsong looked at Shilu's back view. The smugness and desire in his heart had mostly dissipated. Perhaps it was because of the cold rain on his head, or perhaps it was because he was frightened by Wang Fatai's words. Wait. Wang Fatai suddenly said. What's wrong? Wait a moment. The armed police and the county's police should be entering the mountains soon. I've asked around, and they have police dogs with them. You might not be able to escape. What? Then what should I do? Tell me your current location. I'll bring some people to meet up with you. If they really catch up, we will fight them for a while. But what? But the real scary thing isn't the police. It's Chen Guang. Wang, you've watched wuxia dramas before, right? Chen Guang is the kind of hero in the dramas who kills a person every 10 steps and leaves no trace behind. You must be wary of him. Don't think that you'll be safe just because you have a gun. That's impossible, right? Look at the situation now. Do you think I'm joking with you? I'm going to risk my life to fight someone for you. Stop talking nonsense. Tell me your location. Wang Fatai, who was sitting in the Bentley, gritted his teeth. He thought of the big guns in his trunk and decided to go all out. Wang and Song hurriedly called Tiger over and told him their current location, as well as the approximate route they had chosen at the last minute. The father and son hung up the phone. Ma Song, who was sitting beside Wang Fatai, asked doubtfully, "Boss, are we really going to do this?" Wang Fatai stared at him fiercely. "What else can we do? Watch my son die in front of you? I still have a lot of assets overseas. As long as we escape, as long as there's life, we won't have to worry about young Chai. Otherwise, even if we really shoot Wang down, I'm afraid we'll still be hunted down later. If Hu Jintao wants to escape, then even Master won't be able to protect us tomorrow. We have to rely on ourselves." "Brother Bun, what did your dad say?" Tiger quickly asked Wang and Song. Wang and Song gritted his teeth. "What else can we do? We can't go back to Baishuya County now. If we go back, we'll really die. We've stirred up a hornet's nest." "That's right, that woman is a hornet's nest." He pointed at Shilu's back and said, "Just follow the route you told my dad just now. He'll be waiting for us in the car with his men. We won't go to Maji Town. How long do you think it'll take for us to reach the mountain road?" 3 hours if we're fast, 4 if we're slow. That's fine. As long as we meet up with my dad before they catch up, we'll be able to escape. Don't stop. Hurry up. Stupid woman, you better hurry up too. I'm dead because of you this time. You have such a powerful background, why are you hiding it? If you had told me earlier, would I have attacked you? It's all your fault that we ended up like this." Wang and Song took 2 steps forward and wanted to lift his leg to kick Shilu. Unexpectedly, Shilu quickened her pace and took a step forward, causing him to kick the air. The rain and wind caused the temperature to drop exceptionally low. After walking for a long time, the pain in her ankle was so numb that she couldn't feel it. A strong desire to live supported every inch of space in her mind. Shilu's steps became firmer and faster, and she was just barely able to keep up with the others. Her determination temporarily saved her life. Since she had already decided to escape, once she showed any signs of not being able to keep up, dragging the others down, or showing signs of wanting to escape, Wang and Song would shoot her without hesitation. Chapter 985. What county magistrate who did not know was that his momentary lapse in secrecy had allowed Fortunebringer to take the risk to protect Tong and Song. Big Beard Deng would not have expected that his decision to conceal the hostage's identity would not only fail to help Shilu, but also put her in danger. If county magistrate who knew that the hostage was not Jiang Yage, he would not have had the idea of killing Tong and Song, and would have communicated with Fortunebringer about the matter. As long as Tong and Song was sure that Shilu had not suffered any substantial injuries, he could easily persuade Tong and Song to return her to the rightful owner. After that, he could kowtow and beg for mercy, and pay compensation. He could turn a big problem into a small one, and a small one into nothing. As long as Tong and Song was fine, there was room for discussion. Of course, Chen Guang was also the reason why Fortunebringer made up his mind. After all, he had seen how martial artists killed without saying a word. Since Chen Guang had stood up for Jiang Yage at the wine table yesterday, it meant that Jiang Yage had a special place in his heart. Apart from Jiang Yage's background, as long as a woman touched a martial artist, there was only one word in his dictionary: death. In short, as long as he wanted to protect Tong and Song's life, he had no choice as a father. "How did you find the direction just now?" Jiang Yage was still lying on Chen Guang's back, the wind blowing on her face. She could not help but ask curiously. Chen Guang's heart was heavy, but he joked with Jiang Yage. "Didn't you listen to my chant? This is a very advanced martial art that I've cultivated. It's similar to Thousand Miles sound transmission, and it stimulates the guidance of spiritual energy to find the spiritual energy left behind by that group of people when they passed by. It's all kinds of emotions, such as fear and nervousness. It's also mentioned in approaching science. When a person's brain is in a state of thought and emotional fluctuation, it will release brain waves. This kind of brain wave will affect the things around him. It's very weak, but it can leave traces. I can see it. Old Master Guang was getting more and more familiar with swindling people, and he could easily make up lies. Swindling, continue swindling. What kind of damned incantation is that? Mother Earth is tricking me. May the holy light guide me. You think I've never played World of Warcraft before? You put the druid and the paladin together. Jiang Yage saw through Qin Guang's scheme. Old Master Guang felt extremely awkward. How could he not be slippery when he often walked by the river? He had used too many tricks, but he didn't expect to meet someone who knew the ropes and exposed him on the spot. I made up the incantation, but I can't explain it to you. What's important isn't the incantation I recited, but my thoughts at the time. Sincerity brings results, okay? Forget it. Anyway, it's not the first day I've known you. You're always talking big. Alright, how long will it take to catch up? 10 minutes at most. Chen Guang said resolutely. In a sense, he wasn't bluffing Jiang Yage. What he said was true. Previously, when he sensed that the power of the Holy Grail in this world had become exceptionally rich, his Earth Exploder's special ability had become extremely active. This was because the Holy Grail's power, which could replace the origin energy, was constantly being converted into abundant elemental energy. Although it couldn't be compared to the soul world that he was in during the second punishment world, it was enough to support the absorption of the Earth Exploder's special ability and recover a portion of its power. Of course, ever since the end of the second punishment world, Chen Guang's Earth Exploder ability had been slowly recovering. When he killed Ouyang Tianxing, he had devoured the remaining power of the Broken World Holy Tribe, which was a huge supplement. Until now, thanks to the continuous invisible strengthening of the Holy Grail's power, his Earth Exploder ability had finally crossed a threshold. The most typical example was that he could finally try to communicate with the elemental energy of the outside world. Just now, in order to find a way to continue tracking them, he had racked his brains. First, he tried to communicate with the heaven and earth chi as a martial sage, which was the intuition of a martial artist. He then tried to use the earth-based special ability to communicate with the elemental energy. Both methods had some effect, but the answer he got was not certain. Suddenly, he had an idea and simply merged the two abilities together. While circulating his inner strength, he also tried to mobilize the special ability of the Earth Exploder. After a short attempt, he actually found the feeling. The guidance of the earth element became clearer, as though there was someone standing in front of him, constantly telling him, "Here." Same here. In order to avoid having to explain the principles to Jiang Yage, he casually made up a Heart Sutra to muddle through. He did not expect to go for wool and come home shorn. However, this was not important. What was important was that he would soon be able to find the people and save Shilu. 5 minutes later, Chen Guang finally completely passed through the section of the road where the footprints of Wu Song and the rest had been washed away by the rain. This was the place where they had passed when it started raining. From there, the soil became muddy and their footprints became clear. At that moment, Chen Guang also discovered a new problem. There is an extra pair of footprints. What happened? The shoes are small. It should be that Shi Lu was put down for a period of time and walked on her own. Then why didn't she escape? This dark forest is easy to escape from. This is deep in the forest and there might be ferocious beasts around. She is a girl and did not bring any survival tools with her. She also has no way to communicate with the outside world. Even if she escaped, she might not survive. Of course, it is more likely that Wu Song and the rest have guns in their hands and she can't escape. The two of them chased for a distance before Chen Guang said, "Shi Lu twisted her ankle here. She is injured." These be asterisk stars. Chen Guang comforted her. "Don't worry, it will be over soon. There is good news. At least it means that Shi Lu has not suffered any major losses. They are also panicking when they escape and have no time to do anything to Shi Lu." Jiang Yage nodded. "I hope so." Further ahead, Wu Song's group of 9 and Shi Lu, who were supposed to be escaping in a panic, stopped in their tracks and looked ahead with a face full of fear. Dark green lights were slowly rising from the dense forest in front of them like fireflies. These firefly lights were in pairs and most of them were less than half a meter from the ground. A low, hoarse groan came from all directions, accompanied by the sound of rustling. The heavy rain was still pouring, but it could not cover up these strange sounds. The starlight and moonlight were still shining brightly in the sky, but it made everyone feel even more fearful in the shadows. The green lights were getting denser and denser. They were in all four directions of the dense forest. Wuxia took out his saber from his waist. His teeth were chattering. Brother Wolf, what a huge wolf pack. He would never forget the story his father told him. Never run around in this forest in the middle of the night, because you would never know when the wild wolves would quietly surround you. They were 100 times scarier than lone bears, tigers and wild boars. Your grandfather, your great-grandfather, your great-great-grandfather, they all died in the hands of the wolf pack. Wuxia licked his lips. Dad, you forgot to mention one person. That's yourself. Am I coming too now? Such a huge wolf pack was beyond his knowledge. Xilu instinctively wanted to hide in the middle of the crowd. She was so nervous that her legs were trembling and she had no strength left in her. Everyone stand up straight. We cannot fall. We must not fall. The wolves are more cunning than you think. They have quietly surrounded us. They haven't attacked us yet because we seem to be in good spirits. However, once someone falls down, they will think that we are weak. They will rush up and bite us to death without hesitation. I have never seen such a huge wolf pack. There are at least 70 to 80 of them. There might be more lurking around the perimeter. There are hundreds of them. There must be an extremely powerful wolf king in this pack. The intelligence and strength of such a wolf king is at least a few times that of a normal alpha wolf. Wuxia shouted loudly, trying his best to make his voice sound powerful. He was bluffing. Xilu pinched her thighs tightly. 2 streams of tears mixed with the rainwater flowed down to the ground. There were too many wolves. Am I going to die here in the end? Wuxia, what should we do now? Nan and Song clenched the gun in his hand tightly. His breathing was as heavy as a bellow. He would never have thought that his casual joke would become a prophecy. Although he was not a hunter, as a native of Whitewater River County, he knew how terrifying a pack of hundreds of wolves was. Wuxia's eyes turned rapidly. He frantically searched his mind for the survival method taught by his ancestors. His eyes looked around frantically. It was impossible to rush out. There was only one way. That was to climb up the tree and wait for others to bring heavy firepower to rescue them. His eyes drifted to a foot-thick tree about 4 to 5 meters away from the group. This was a dense forest. There were many trees around them that they could climb. The tree that Wuxia had chosen was rather large. It was not the closest one, but because of its special branches, it was the easiest to climb. The rainwater had made the tree somewhat slippery. But with the hook at his waist, he should be able to climb up. If he moved faster, he could probably pull Brother Meow up as well. As for the others, the 8 immortals crossed the sea and each displayed their own abilities. Everyone prayed for their own luck. After all, as long as Brother Meow's life was preserved, his father would definitely come to rescue him. However, they couldn't act rashly now. Once they showed any signs of escaping, the cunning wolves would definitely pounce on them in an instant. At that time, shooting would be of no use. Blood would only stimulate the wolf's ferocious nature. As long as the Wolf King did not die, it would not care about the lives of the weak wolves in the vanguard. It would only command the other wolves to attack like waves. Brother Meow, I have an idea. Say it. Nan and Song was burning with anxiety. Wuxia pointed to Xilu, who was in the middle of the group. Let her take a stick and go to the front. We'll take the opportunity to climb up the tree. Xilu finally broke down. Nan and Song did not listen to her explanation. He turned and pointed the gun at her. You choose. Either you run forward with all your might. You might be able to escape, or I'll shoot you dead. Wuxia admired Nan and Song's decisiveness. He thought that if it were him, he would really be reluctant to sacrifice such a delicate superstar. What a pity. But it was fine. Her flesh was more tender, and the wolves liked it more. Shi Lu faced the gun and looked at Nan and Song's ferocious expression. Give her a stick. Nan and Song pouted and said, I'll give you 3 seconds to consider. Either you run out yourself, or I'll shoot you dead and throw your corpse out. To me, the effect is the same. Hu Zi secretly gestured to Nan and Song. Nan and Song and Hu Zi understood each other. In fact, that was what he had planned to do. When Jiang Yage ran a few steps forward and was about to reach the wolves, he would shoot her from behind. At that time, the blood splashing from her body would definitely attract all the attention of the wolves in a short time. Shi Lu knew that she had no other choice. She took the metal stick from a man and held it tightly in her hand. She wanted to live, not die. Taking a deep breath, she yelled crazily and waved her iron rod. She staggered and rushed towards the wolves step by step. Sure enough, the wolves' attention was attracted to her. The howling became louder, and the green glow under the night sky became lower. Hu Zi saw the opportunity and gave Nan and Song a look. He then shouted in a low voice, Brothers, quickly think of a way to climb up the tree. These trees are very old and there are many scars on them. Just dig and you'll be able to climb up. It's very easy to climb. Without caring about the others, Hu Zi turned and quickly ran towards the tree he had chosen earlier. Nan and Song followed closely while the others pounced on the nearest tree. They didn't care about the size of the tree. They grabbed a tree and tried to climb up. Hu Zi took out a metal hook from his waist and held it in his hands. He used each hand to hit the tree trunk and climbed up. Don't worry, Brother Nan. I'll pull you up when I get up. Hu Zi lowered his voice and said to Nan and Song behind him. Nan and Song nodded. He turned around and aimed the flashlight and muzzle at Shi Lu's figure. He narrowed his eyes and said, I understand. Hurry up. Shi Lu's heart beat faster and faster. The wolves in front of her became clearer under the dim moonlight. There seemed to be someone shining a flashlight in their direction. These wolves had grayish-black fur, white fangs, sharp claws, and cold eyes. Their tails were pointed towards the ground. The fur on their tails was straight like steel needles even under the beating of the rain. They were getting closer and closer. I'm going to die. I can't take this lying down. Shi Lu shouted even louder. Her thin and slender hands exploded with unprecedented strength. She waved the metal rod in her hands so hard that it was even louder than the sound of the rain, wind, and the wolves' howls. A loud howl came from the back of the pack of wolves. This was the Wolf King blowing the horn to attack. The wolves immediately responded in unison. Their ear-piercing howls pierced through the air. The wolves in front of Shi Lu were the fastest. They first lowered their bodies slightly, then exerted force with their hind legs and sprang forward. Nan and Song used his left ring and middle fingers to hold the flashlight. His left index finger supported the bottom of his right wrist. His right hand had never been so steady. The black muzzle was aimed at Shi Lu's back. There was only a crazed light in his eyes. He slowly increased the strength of his right index finger. Definitely, he had to hit her in one shot. Chapter 986. Bang. The bullet pierced through the air and went straight for the back of Shi Lu's head. Shi Lu did not know anything. She was swinging the metal rod in her hand at the wolf in front of her. She was still dreaming of beating the wolf to death and then running away. She believed that humans had potential. In a desperate situation, they could explode with strength that surpassed the limits of humans. Unfortunately, she was just a mortal and her potential was limited. She did not know that there was a fatal bullet flying towards the back of her head. The speed of a bullet from a handgun was about the speed of sound. She would probably be dead the moment she heard the gunshot. As for Wan and Song, he did not look at Shi Lu's situation after shooting. Instead, he turned around and took the rope that Hu Zi threw down from the tree. He held onto it tightly and arched his back, preparing to climb up the tree. The feel of this shot was too good. It made him very confident. He was glad that he did not waste his time when he had the chance to practice shooting in the past. He thought that he was quite talented in this. At this moment, a muffled sound came from Shilu's direction. Wang thought that Jiang Yage was probably dead. He then turned to look at Shilu's direction. The next moment he was stunned. Shilu was still standing there, but she had already turned her head. Even though the night was dim, Wang could tell that her head had not exploded. She was indeed looking back at him. What was going on? What was going on? Why wasn't she dead? Did I miss? That was impossible. The wolf pack was still pouncing toward Shilu. They bared their teeth and were unusually fierce. But the strange thing was that every time these wolves got close to Shilu, they would howl and fly backwards without warning. It was as if something had hit them on the head, or as if they had hit an invisible wall. What the hell? Wang was so shocked that he even forgot to climb up the tree. The wolf pack was also ferocious. The harder it was to bite Shilu, the more they pounced on her. Even the wolves that were originally pouncing towards Wang and the others changed their direction and went straight for Shilu. The angry howls of the Wolf King did not stop. It was probably the Wolf King secretly commanding the pack of wolves. "Brother Wang, hurry up," Hu Zi urged from the tree. Nong and Song looked around and realized that the pack of wolves pouncing from behind had gone straight for Jiang Yage. His heart calmed down a little. "Wait, I must kill her." "Brother Bao, what time is this? It's better for her to live longer. Come up quickly," Hu Zi urged him again. At this time, the other people who were unable to climb up the tree due to the slippery trunk also reacted, and one by one, they told Wang Tsang not to shoot. Nan and Song unwillingly put away his gun and turned around to climb up the tree. At this moment, a tall figure came from afar in the wind and stopped in front of Jiang Yage. The figure was so fast that the strong wind and rainwater that he brought with him hit Nong and Song's body, causing his body to tilt subconsciously. He leaned against the tree trunk to barely stand up. Nong and Song's pupils constricted and he forgot to climb up the tree. He swung his hand and aimed the flashlight in the direction of the black shadow. Qin Guang. In the distance, Qin Guang was standing with his hands behind his back. On his back, a girl was quickly sliding down. Then, Nong and Song saw the girl's face clearly from afar. It was Jiang Yage. What was going on? There were two Jiang Yages. But very quickly, his attention was attracted by Qin Guang. Compared to the strange situation of two Jiang Yages, the current Qin Guang was even more terrifying. At this moment, this hero of the pugilistic world, who his father said killed a person every 10 steps and left no trace for 1,000 miles, was looking at him indifferently with a pair of extremely cold eyes. From the other party's eyes, Nong and Song seemed to read an emotion. He wasn't looking at a person, but a corpse. Unknowingly, Nong and Song's hair stood on end. An unprecedented sense of danger arose in his heart, as if he would be beheaded in the next moment. The pack of wolves was still madly pouncing in the direction of the three people. But no matter how fiercely they pounced, they hit an invisible wall and couldn't move an inch. The rain above the three of them was splashing in the air, forming a semicircular cover that slowly flowed down. This semicircular cover was the barrier that blocked the advance of the pack of wolves. "Brother Nong, hurry up." Sitting on the tree with his back facing Shilu, Hu Zi didn't know what was happening. He was still desperately urging Nong and Song to pull him up. The others, regardless of whether they were on the tree or not, were all staring blankly in the direction of Qin Guang. Only then did Hu Zi realize something was wrong. He turned his head and then froze on the tree, forgetting to continue pulling the rope. But, my God! Nong and Song finally broke free from his fear. He raised his hand and gun and shouted hysterically, "Kill him! Kill him!" Bang bang bang. He aimed his gun in the direction of Qin Guang and pulled the trigger crazily. The other two people also took out their guns from their pockets and fired in the direction of Qin Guang. But something that made them feel despair happened. In the distance, Qin Guang still had his left hand behind his back, but he stretched out his right hand with his palm facing forward and his 5 fingers spread out. A silent but visible vibration was emitted from his palm, causing the water that was slowly flowing down the wall to scatter in all directions. Under the light of the flashlight, the water droplets that were blown away were crystal clear and extremely alluring. But under this different kind of beauty, there was a scene that made people despair. All the bullets that were shot by the 3 pistols, other than the ones that flew off, were all shot in the right direction. It was as if they had shot into a transparent quagmire, quietly floating in the air in front of Qin Guang's 5 fingers. The scattered bullets seemed to be embedded in the invisible air barrier in front of Qin Guang. Click, click sounds came one after another. He didn't know when, but the gun in Nong Tsong's hand had already fired all the bullets. The gun barrel was burning hot, but his heart was piercingly cold. Similar sounds came from the direction of the other 2 gunmen. There were no more bullets. Unfortunately, their crazy shooting had no effect. Chen Guang was still in the same posture with his right hand in front of him, but the bullets floating in front of him had become more numerous. Rainwater continued to pour down from above the dense forest, hitting the circular energy cover before flowing down. When it passed by the bullet floating in the air, it was sliced to the sides, but then flowed through the middle of the bullet in an extremely orderly circular arc. Time seemed to have completely stopped at this moment. Even Jiang Yage, who was standing behind Qin Guang, and Shi Lu, who was sitting paralyzed on the ground and turned her head to look in this direction, were completely stunned. There was no sound between heaven and earth, not even the rain dared to come close. Perhaps only the wolf pack, who didn't know what was happening, was still madly attacking in vain. Nong Tsong unknowingly dropped the gun in his hand and knelt on the ground. "I beg you, don't kill me. I know I was wrong. I beg you." He finally completely believed what his father had said. There really were heroes in this world. In a sense, the power that Qin Guang had displayed was even more terrifying than the heroes in television dramas. It was almost like immortal arts and evil arts. He finally understood why the first Jiang Yage didn't die after the first shot. It must have been because he shot a drop of water from afar that caused the bullet to deviate. Why was I so stupid? How could I dare to provoke such a person? He knelt on the ground and hammered his head into the mud in front of him again and again. The others weren't much better. They all followed Nong Tsong's actions and knelt on the ground, kowtowing crazily. Even the wolf pack, which had never stopped attacking, was forgotten by these people. Chen Guang's attention wasn't on them. He just waved his hand impatiently. Beg for mercy? It's too late. He flicked the fingers of his right hand, as if he was shooing away flies. The bullets floating in front of him instantly turned around and flew backward, even faster than when he fired the gun. The effect of fusing the dart technique with the release of inner strength was unexpectedly good. It was accurate, fast and ruthless, and it even had the range effect of multiple shots. 9 consecutive sounds of flesh being pierced were heard, and a bloody hole suddenly appeared between the eyebrows of Dan Ansong, Hu Zi, and the others. Then, they didn't even have the time to scream before they silently fell to the ground. Those who had already climbed up the tree fell with their heads up and fell to the ground like a piece of torn cloth. There was no more sound. Jiang Yage and Shi Lu both covered their mouths. The 2 girls didn't expect Qin Guang to kill them so decisively. "Alright, stop daydreaming here. It's not over yet. It's just a few bastards that died, it's not worth mentioning." Chen Guang turned around and waved his hand casually. As Jiang Yage helped Shi Lu up, she asked in confusion, "Aren't these wolves unable to pounce on us? What's there to be afraid of?" Chen Guang rolled his eyes. "You think it's easy for me? Inner strength is free. Cabbages. These wolves aren't simple." As Chen Guang spoke, he pulled the 2 behind him and looked around with a serious expression. Jiang Yage muttered to herself, "What's so strange about it? Aren't they just wild huskies?" Of course, she only thought about it in her heart. She wouldn't say it out loud. Shi Lu clenched her fists and curled up behind Qin Guang. Her heart was pounding. Just now, when she was about to swing the stick at the wild wolf in front of her, she heard a poof at the back of her head. Then, a gust of wind brushed past her face. Something flew past her ear and cut off a chunk of her hair. Almost at the same time, she heard a gunshot and knew that Wang Lin had shot at her. But at this moment, she still didn't know why the bullets missed. Just as she turned back to look at Nong Lin, under the illumination of Nong Lin's flashlight, she saw with her own eyes 2 water droplets shooting from the side behind her, hitting the heads of the wolves that were pouncing over and sending these terrifying beasts flying. Only then did she understand that someone had used the water droplets to help her block the bullets. Then, Chen Guang carried Jiang Yage on his back and descended from the sky. Then Jiang Yage came down from his back. Jiang Yage had just landed on the ground when gunshots rang out again. This time, they came from more than one direction. At that time, Shi Lu thought that the three of them were going to die. But Chen Guang, who was standing at the front, just opened his hands and the bullets stopped abruptly in front of them. Before she could react to what was going on, the bullets flew out again. Wang and Song and the others, who were extremely vicious in her eyes, died on the spot. All of this happened too quickly and didn't give her much time to think. Shi Lu, don't worry. It's fine. With him here, we're very safe. Even if the sky falls, he can hold it up. Jiang Yage, who was supporting Shi Lu, said with a smile. She didn't take the wolves in front of the three of them seriously. The Wolf King's howl sounded again, but it wasn't an order to retreat. Instead, it was like a war drum to boost the morale of two armies. The wolves that were advancing in waves were getting closer. They didn't show any signs of retreating. Instead, they became even crazier. Under the Wolf King's command, the wolves didn't attack the 9 corpses on the ground. Instead, they continued to surround Xin Guang and the other 2. More and more wolves were densely packed. It was a sight that made one's teeth ache. Xin Guang, hurry up and kill them. Jiang Yage didn't understand why Xin Guang looked like he was facing a great enemy. Although the wolves were scary to ordinary people, she didn't think that these big dogs could pose a threat to him. However, Chen Guang paid no attention to her and continued to look at the wolves. Actually, before he came closer, he had a faint feeling that something was wrong. If there was really nothing strange about these wolves, when he flicked the water droplets over with his fingers, even the smallest water droplets should have been able to smash the skulls of these wolves. But the reality was that even though these wolves were sent flying, they rolled on the ground twice and were covered in mud. Then, they shook their heads and stood up again. They recovered quickly and continued to attack. Chen Guang focused his attention and kept the internal energy and superpower in his body in a highly active state. He sensed an extremely familiar scent from these wolves. It was elemental energy. It was extremely complicated and not strong. It was much weaker than Ouyang Tianxing's, but it existed objectively. The elemental energy in the world that was transformed from the power of the Holy Grail was too rich. The elemental energy in these wolves was even richer. They had mutated. At this moment, Shi Lu, who was supported by Jiang Yage, heard Jiang Yage talk to Chen Guang like that and felt an indescribable sense of envy in her heart. But she knew that it was useless. Jiang Yage and Chen Guang had known each other when they were down and out. They were true friends who had gone through thick and thin. Now that Chen Guang had made a name for himself and changed his identity, the gap between them was too big. If she wanted to be like Jiang Yage and take the initiative to get close to him, even if she had a clear conscience, it would still be inappropriate in the eyes of others and even him. Just the ability that he had displayed now made him like the stars in the sky. Although she was considered beautiful in the eyes of ordinary people, she was ultimately just a mortal on the ground. There was a saying that went, "You can only blame yourself for not being able to meet again." The Wolf King howled again, but it was different from before. This time, it was much closer. It seemed like it was not satisfied with hiding behind the pack of wolves and chose to go into battle personally. In the blink of an eye, a giant wolf about 1.5 meters tall and 2 meters long, so large that it did not look like a wolf but more like a tiger, slowly walked out from the path that the pack of wolves had opened up. Under the moonlight and the rain, its silver-white fur glistened and faintly had a metallic luster. This was a rare mutated silver wolf. Unlike other wild wolves that walked around with their teeth bared, this Wolf King only opened its mouth from time to time and revealed its eerie white teeth. Its steps were slow but firm. Its front paws were extremely strong and were thicker than a human's thigh. The front paws that were exposed were like sharp daggers that easily cut through the gravel where its paws landed. Even Jiang Yage, who was originally very confident in Chen Guang, held her breath when she saw this Wolf King. She did not dare to rashly disturb Qin Guang. Chapter 987. With the appearance of the Silver Wolf King, the morale of the other wolves was boosted. Previously, the wolves were almost exhausted, but now they recovered quite a bit. Following behind the Silver Wolf King, 8 huge wolves that were much taller and stronger than the other wolves appeared. They were only slightly smaller than the Silver Wolf King. These 8 huge wolves looked extraordinary as well, and the colors of their fur were different. Some of the huge wolves were pitch black, but it wasn't the normal kind of black. Instead, it seemed to absorb all the light around it. If it wasn't for its green eyes and the white teeth in its open mouth, ordinary people wouldn't even notice the existence of this wolf. There were also other huge wolves that were scarlet, blue, or green. They almost took up all the colors of the rainbow. Including the ink black wolf, there were exactly 8 of them. What's going on with these wolves? This time, it was Shi Lu's turn to shout out in panic. Chen Guang pulled back his hand and gestured for the 2 of them to come closer to him. I think I've met my kind. Your kind? Jiang Yage asked in confusion. Chen Guang grunted. Yes, my kind. I can't explain it in such a short time, but all you need to know is that there's something that shouldn't exist in this world. Now that things had come to this, Chen Guang didn't have the energy or time to ask why the power of the heavenly Holy Grail would continue to increase, and why the ordinary wolf packs on Earth would become like this, with their bodies filled with rich elemental powers. The heavenly Holy Grail wasn't in his hands, and Azure wasn't in the mood to take the initiative to talk to him. He had to rely on himself for everything. In any case, he had to slaughter this group of reckless beasts first. Actually, if everyone could calm down and sit down for a proper discussion, Chen Guang might be able to use his special skills as a language master to communicate with a wild animal with high intelligence like the Silver Wolf King. After all, he was also a master of shady transactions. There was nothing in this world that couldn't be shady transactions. If one shady transaction couldn't solve the problem, then he would do it a second time. It was a pity that the other party didn't seem to have any intention of communicating with them. Instead, for some reason, he seemed particularly irritable, determined to bite them to death. Strangely enough, unlike other ferocious beasts, the probability of wolves taking the initiative to attack humans was not high, even though they were terrifying. Because of their high intelligence, the wolves knew that humans were different from the other beasts in the mountains and were more dangerous. Although the wolves were ferocious, they were not willing to easily become enemies with humans. Otherwise, the things in the hands of humans would pose a great threat to them. But this time, they attacked the humans without any fear of death. Even though Chen Guang had used water droplets as darts to knock them to the ground over and over again, and even though Dan and Song and the rest had fired wildly, they still could not shake the frenzied wolf pack in the slightest. It seemed that not only did the elemental energy make them stronger, it also made them more bloodthirsty and relentless. However, there was also another possibility. The overly powerful Silver Wolf King had inflated its ego. It led the wolves to attack the humans not because they were hungry, but because it wanted to test how strong its newly acquired power was. Just as Chen Guang was analyzing the situation in his mind, the Silver Wolf King in front of him had already let out a roar and was the first to charge forward. The Silver Wolf King looked huge, but its movements were extremely fast. It crossed a distance of more than 10 meters in the blink of an eye, and in the next moment, it was already in the air with its claws spread open, and it pounced towards Chen Guang from above. From the Silver Wolf King's brief movements, Chen Guang could sense a hint of the earth cutter that he had fought before. However, it did not have the earth element in its body, but an even sharper type of elemental energy, which was a little metallic. As the Silver Wolf King led the charge, the other wolves around it also charged forward in unison, as if they were going to launch their final attack. For a moment, the wolves surrounded Chen Guang and the others from all directions, with the Silver Wolf King as the leader, the 8 mutated giant wolves as support, and the remaining dozens of wolves as support. An unprecedented amount of elemental energy, something that had never appeared on Earth, charged towards Chen Guang in a frenzy. The Silver Wolf King was still flying in the air when it suddenly opened its mouth, and a silver ray of light shot out from its tongue, piercing through the air towards the space between Qin Guang's eyebrows. The other 8 mutated giant wolves also unleashed their own abilities. The shadow wolf that was as black as ink spat out a ball of black mist from its mouth. It seemed to be moving slowly, but it was actually flying towards Qin Guang at an extremely fast speed, devouring the light along the way. It was actually the rare power of darkness. The giant green wolf clawed at the ground with its claws, and 2 rays of green light filled with the power of the wind element flew out in a crisscrossed manner. The giant blue wolf's fur stood on end, and it did a somersault in the air, turning its back towards Qin Guang. The fur on its body instantly froze, and countless ice needles shot out from its back like lightning. It looked like a porcupine launching an attack, but its power was many times greater. The giant red wolf was of the fire element, and it opened its mouth to spit out a fireball. The fireball grew in the heavy rain, illuminating the surroundings as it swept towards Tang Wulin. The 8 mutated giant wolves each had their own unique characteristics, but none of them were to be underestimated. As for the other wolves, although they were not as strong as the Silver Wolf King and the mutated giant wolves, many of them also displayed special abilities brought about by the power of the elements. For example, their fangs grew longer, or their claws emitted sparks, or their bodies suddenly expanded, becoming exceptionally large. If not for the fact that they were in a life-and-death situation, the 2 girls, Jiang Yage and Shi Lu, would have been dazzled by the dazzling attacks in front of them. At this moment, the 2 girls did not know what they could do, nor did they know what kind of situation they were facing. If not for the fact that it was happening right in front of their eyes, the 2 of them would have thought that they were filming a Hollywood fantasy movie. As actors, the 2 of them had acted in all kinds of strange things in movies. If it were an ordinary person, they would have long since fainted. Even so, they could only hold their breaths and stare blankly at the broad back of the man in front of them, pinning all their hopes on Qin Guang. Faced with the oncoming attack of the wolf pack, Qin Guang, who was previously extremely fearful, felt much more relaxed. Fortunately, these wild beasts were only enjoying the leftovers brought about by the power of the Holy Grail. To an ordinary person, they might be so powerful that they were almost undefeatable, but in front of a high-level elemental creature like him, the Earth Popper, their abilities were not enough. You lowly beasts! You want to use me as a touchstone for your special abilities? I'm sorry, but you found the wrong target. All of you have to kneel and call me grandfather. Qin Guang laughed coldly and suddenly spread his arms. The strength of the martial sage realm burst forth from his left hand, while the special ability of the Earth Popper spread out from his right. The 2 equally powerful forces instantly intertwined in the middle of his hands, and in the next instant, they turned into a pillar that replenished the invisible barrier in front of him. The silver light spat out by the Silver Wolf King was the first to collide with the barrier. With a crisp sound, the silver light only managed to break through the barrier for a short while before it was completely destroyed by the special ability of the Earth Popper, which was many realms higher than it, and returned to its most basic elemental energy. The attacks of the other 8 mutated giant wolves seemed terrifying, but in reality, they were not much better. They were all blocked outside. Jiang Yage and Shi Lu were both inside the colorful circular barrier. Even though they knew that they were not out of danger yet, the 2 of them were still completely immersed in the incomparably dazzling brilliance. It was natural for girls to love beauty. At this moment, Shi Lu had escaped from death, and the tension in her heart had greatly eased. With Jiang Yage's consolation, she firmly believed in Qin Guang's strength. Jiang Yage was even more blind, believing that as long as he said it, he would definitely be able to do it. At this moment, the 2 of them were nervous, but not nervous. Amidst their fear, there was also a sense of steadfastness and determination. They could not control their emotions at all, and subconsciously immersed themselves in the magnificent brilliance before them. However, the 2 of them were pulled back to reality in the blink of an eye. This was because the ordinary wolves had already pounced on the barrier. Their wide-open bloody mouths seemed to be within reach, and the saliva dripping from their sharp fangs looked disgusting and terrifying. The two girls subconsciously hugged each other tightly and screamed involuntarily. However, the wolf pack's attack was futile. Unlike the previous attacks that were only blocked and bounced off, the invisible barrier that was once again fused with an even more powerful inner force and earth elemental energy wrapped around these reckless wolves. It was as if they had flown into a quagmire in a swamp and then ruthlessly tore them apart like a meat grinder. Boiling red blood splattered all over the sky. Bits of flesh and white bones mixed with broken fangs flew in all directions. This scene was bloody yet bewitchingly beautiful. Upon seeing this, the originally arrogant Silver Wolf King let out a blood-curdling cry. Its body abruptly stopped in midair, as if defying gravity. It twisted its body in a strange manner in midair, and turned around in an attempt to escape. Accompanying the Silver Wolf King's blood-curdling cry, which also sounded like an order to retreat, the remaining 70 to 80 wolves also turned around and ran, scattering in all directions. With the heavenly Holy Grail in his hand, as the world's most powerful martial artist, as well as the ultimate elemental form of the Earth Marmalade Exploder, Qin Guang, who could be mentioned in the same breath as a god emperor, how could he lose to these mutated beasts that had eaten his leftovers? Beasts were still beasts after all. If they really had the intelligence of humans, they would have known from the beginning that they were no match for Qin Guang. By the time they finally realized that they had found the wrong opponent, it was already too late. Qin Guang's eyes were bloodshot. Since he had run into these mutated beasts, he could not let even one of them escape. Otherwise, if ordinary people ran into them, even an armed army might not be able to deal with them. Trying to run? No way. Qin Guang stomped his right foot heavily on the ground. With him as the center, a loud rumbling sound came from the ground 100 meters away. In an instant, an earthen wall about 15 feet tall rose out of thin air. At first glance, these earthen walls did not look like anything special, but upon closer inspection, they looked like countless intertwining quicksand. Chapter 988. The wild wolves that were on the periphery were the first to collide with the wall. These beasts did not know how powerful the wall was and only tried to scratch with their claws. However, as soon as their claws reached in, they were instantly wrapped up by the quicksand on the surface of the wall, unable to escape. Qin Guang snorted coldly. He spread open the fingers of his right hand and clenched his fist. Sand-binding coffin. Following his shout, the wild wolves that were caught in the quicksand wall all screamed and exploded in the sand, as if they had been crushed by a giant's fist. You're running your mouth again. You think I haven't seen Naruto before? Jiang Yage, who had calmed down again, immediately exposed this guy who was too lazy to give a name to his ultimate move. Although she did not know how he did it, nor did she understand what kind of ability it was, Jiang Yage subconsciously understood that this was definitely not something that could be explained by a simple inner force martial artist. However, this was not important at all. He was Qin Guang anyway. Even if he could open his mouth and swallow the sun into his stomach, there was no need to make a fuss about it. The remaining wolves knew that they were powerful and immediately stopped in front of the quicksand wall. They did not dare to move an inch forward, but the wall was too high for them to jump over. The Silver Wolf King and the 8 mutated giant wolves also rushed to the front of the quicksand wall. These 9 giant wolves were quite capable. The Silver Wolf King's hind legs bounced off the ground and shot up into the sky like a cannonball. At a glance, it seemed like it could directly jump over. The Emerald Wind Wolf King, on the other hand, directly floated up into the air. The khaki-colored giant earth element wolf did not know what was good for it. It dived head first into the quicksand wall, as if it wanted to turn into soil and pass through the wall. Unfortunately, as soon as its elemental power came into contact with the power of Qin Guang's kind, which was countless times higher, it was instantly suppressed and died on the spot. On the other side, the Silver Wolf King rushed higher and higher. Just as it was about to escape, the quicksand wall suddenly expanded under Qin Guang's secret control. It shot up into the sky, and the top continued to gather above Qin Guang's head. In the blink of an eye, the quicksand wall had become a pot lid, covering the 3 people and the remaining 60 to 70 wolves. This move could also be called closing the door and beating the dog. Chen Guang turned around and shrugged at Jiang Yage and Shi Lu. Why don't you close your eyes later? The next scene is a little bloody and not suitable for children. After saying that, he turned around and walked forward, cracking his knuckles. Despairing, the Silver Wolf King turned around and pounced. This time, Chen Guang did not use his superpower. His martial sage realm genuine chi burst out and he used the real martial sage unique skill, true martial divine skill. His body was indestructible. He stretched out his hands and grabbed the upper and lower jaws of the Silver Wolf King. His fingers locked onto its teeth and tore them apart. Die! The Silver Wolf King was torn in half. A merciless massacre had officially begun. From start to finish, it took less than a minute. When the wall of quicksand returned to the ground, all that was left was a ground covered in blood and broken wolf corpses. Chen Guang returned to the stunned Jiang Yage and Shi Lu and shrugged. I'm sorry, I didn't want to make it so bloody. Actually, I used my other ability to maintain the wall of quicksand. I don't have much inner force left, so I could only rely on my physical body to solve the problem. I didn't scare you, did I? Jiang Yage and Shi Lu shook their heads in unison against their will. But soon, Jiang Yage vomited with an O, while Shi Lu burst into tears. She was scared out of her wits. Shi Lu cried for a few minutes until her tears were almost dry. Then, she looked around and began to vomit again. Jiang Yage didn't cry, but in a few minutes, she vomited all the stuff in her stomach, and her bile was almost gone. Chen Guang did not rush them. He stood behind them and patted them on the back. Then, he sat down cross-legged on the ground. Anyway, the military police of Wuxia County were approaching quickly, so he might as well wait for them here. Of course, it was not because he wanted to wait for someone, but because, although it was easy for him to deal with the wolves, he had used up a lot of his inner force and superpower. Ever since he cultivated the true martial skill and became a martial sage, Chen Guang had not felt empty in his stomach for a long time. Now that he was feeling weak, he was not used to it. Thus, he seized the time to meditate. On one hand, he was trying to recover his inner force as soon as possible. On the other hand, after the wolves died, the elemental power in their bodies was slowly released. Although Chen Guang could only absorb the earth elemental power, other than the Silver Wolf King and the 8 mutated giant wolves, the elemental power in the bodies of the other wolves was very heterogeneous. Among the various elemental powers that were released after their deaths, there was more or less some earth element. Even the relatively pure Silver Wolf King and the 8 mutated giant wolves had a lot of impurities in their bodies. Otherwise, their ranks would not be so far apart from Chen Guang. He was the original and only great earth exploder in the endless realm of the gods. Although the name wasn't very elegant, it was actually like the stone monkey that had existed since Pangu created the world, standing proudly above the East Sea, and was born from the 5-colored stone left behind by Nuwa when she patched up the heavens. The Great Earth Exploder was the highest rank of elemental life that had never appeared in the endless realm of the gods. The elemental power in its body was also 100% pure. However, those that were lower than it, such as the Great Earth Chaotic Being, had not reached absolute purity. Perhaps it was 99% and N9s after it. However, no matter how many digits there were after the decimal point, it could only be infinitely close to absolute purity. It could not really cross this critical point. Just like in the real world, whether it was 1,000-foot gold, 10,000-foot gold, or 24K gold, there was no absolute 100% pure gold. Even if there was an impurity of other atoms, it could not be called pure gold. Modern scientists believe that humans are unable to create absolutely pure substances because molecules and atoms can diffuse. However, this was not the case for Chen Guang. He was absolutely pure and did not contain any impurities. Great Earth Exploder. Now that the entire pack of mutated wolves had been annihilated here, the earth element in the vicinity was particularly rich. It was a rare opportunity to use his special ability. Chen Guang simply took this opportunity to use his special ability to absorb the earth element around him like a whale sucking in water. In short, when the two girls were almost done crying and vomiting, Qin Guang also entered a shallow state of meditation. Although the two girls were scared to death, they did not dare to rashly disturb him when they saw him meditating like an old monk. They did not know what was so special about people who practiced martial arts. Wasn't it shown on television that martial arts masters should not be touched when they meditated? They could easily go berserk, and they had to balance yin and yang in order to suppress it. Jiang Yage turned her head to look at Shi Lu and thought to herself, I must not touch him. I must definitely not touch him. Otherwise, it would be too terrifying. Someone would definitely die. As for whether it would be one more or one less life, it was not certain. If his output was a little larger, maybe there would be 2 more lives? But I would definitely faint, and so would Shi Lu. When others came over and found this guy in the F***CK, it would really be unimaginable. Unconsciously, Jiang Yage pulled Shi Lu further and further away, at least maintaining a distance of 5 or 6 meters from Qin Guang. Sister Yarge, we are, Shi Lu said with a trembling voice. She was a little scared when she was far away from Qin Guang. Jiang Yage patted her on the shoulder. Don't worry. All martial arts masters are like him. When they are tired of killing, they have to quickly meditate and chant scriptures to avoid having inner demons in their hearts. Shi Lu suddenly understood. I see. It's so hard for him. Jiang Yage rolled her eyes. Hey, what hard work? He's just pretending to chant scriptures. Forget it, let's not disturb him. It's really a little cold. Shi Lu nodded. Leaving Qin Guang's side, he didn't use his internal energy to block the rain. The two of them had been drenched all the way until now, and their bodies were really cold. Chew, chew. The two of them sneezed one after another. After a while, the rain in the skies suddenly stopped. The moonlight shone down and sparkled. If it weren't for the muddy ground, no one would have imagined that there would be a downpour in this forest tonight. However, Jiang Yage and Shi Lu didn't have a chance to warm up. The rain stopped, but the wind inexplicably became stronger again. At the same time, a strange wind blew from all directions and gathered in Qin Guang's direction. Jiang Yage and Xia Lu could see this strange phenomenon because they found that the leaves around them were all floating in the direction of Qin Guang at the same time. These leaves were wrapped in the wind and kept floating toward him. They gathered around him and spiraled up above his head, almost forming a tornado that swept up to the sky. What the hell is this? Jiang Yage was dumbfounded. Shi Lu's teeth were chattering from the wind. She had already suffered a great shock tonight, and she had to endure all the way here. Now she had caught a cold, and the ground was covered in blood. Her willpower was still strong, and if it was someone else, they would have already given up. Jiang Yage reluctantly helped her up and sat on the ground with their backs against the tree. She couldn't care less about the muddy ground under them. Qin Guang also didn't expect that eating some soil would cause such a big commotion. Although it was a shallow meditation, it was only to guard against murderous aura and killing intent. As for the wind and rain, it wasn't within his scope of consideration. He didn't know that because of his crazy absorption of elemental energy, it caused a tornado to form around his body. This went on for more than half an hour before he finally stood up in a refreshed state. His inner force had recovered by more than half, and the Earthburster's ability was a great supplement. It was even more nourishing than when he swallowed Ouyang Tianxing's ability. Anyway, Qin Guang didn't want to leave a mouthful of soup for others to drink. He could absorb the Earth elemental ability, and it was rare for him to be able to set up a stance. He might as well absorb it all, until the concentration of the Earth elemental energy could no longer support his absorption, and he could barely feel its existence. At this time, he still didn't know that he had actually absorbed all the Earth elemental energy in the surrounding thousands of miles. Elemental energy was different from air. It could be said to be invisible, but it was also tangible and much lighter than air. The range of the elemental energy that Qin Guang absorbed was huge. The Earth elemental energy came from all directions at an extremely fast speed, many times faster than the speed of sound. However, the wind it brought was not that fierce, and it was a bit like electrolytic ions flowing through a solution. He stretched lazily and shouted, "Awesome!" Then he began to look around for Jiang Yage and Shi Lu, shouting, "We can't wait for them. Let's go back." 3 minutes later. F***CK. Curry. He ran under a big tree and dug away the thick layer of leaves that had almost piled up into a grave. He looked at the two girls hiding behind the tree with blue lips, hugging each other for warmth, but failed miserably and fainted from the cold. Chen Guang's heart ached so much that he couldn't breathe. What suffering? Chapter 989. After a while, he transferred qi to the two of them, used his inner force to help them get rid of the frostbite in their bodies, and hurriedly used his earth ability to build a cave around the three of them to block the wind. Then, Chen Guang used the all-encompassing inner force of the true martial divine skill that could change attributes at will to form a flaming saber. He weakened the power and slashed at the extremely sturdy cave wall. "Eat the first form of my flaming saber. Eat the 77th form of my flaming saber." In short, the cave warmed up just like that. After about 10 minutes, Jiang Yage was the first to wake up. She opened her eyes in a daze. "Is this hell?" Nodding his head, Chen Guang responded, "That's right. This is the meat toilet hell. I'll have to trouble benefactor to raise your butt." "You're winning." "It's not convenient for me right now." Jiang Yage calmed down the moment she heard Chen Guang's voice. She shook her head and woke up. Then, she gave Master Guang a rude awakening. Chen Guang didn't want to speak anymore. "It's not convenient for you, and you're telling me you want to train. Are you going to perform a red fountain for me?" Jiang Yage was bashful. "I just came a day early. It was frozen out." As she spoke, she touched Shi Lu's forehead. "Oh my God. It's so hot. It's at least 50 to 60 degrees. She's burning up so badly." "Shut up. If it's 50 to 60 degrees, it's almost done. Don't be so surprised. I just used the weakened version of the flaming saber to add some heat to the two of you. The heat hasn't dissipated yet." Jiang Yage nodded. "Okay, but aren't you afraid of being sued for copyright infringement? Isn't this Jiumaji's Kung Fu? Can you think of a more reliable name? Why do you even read the demigods and semi-demons? Why do you see through my nonsense every time? What's the name of the flaming saber?" Jiang Yage blinked. She realized that she was extremely curious about everything about Chen Guang. Even if it was just some random nonsense, it was still very attractive to her. He was like a black hole, sucking in all of her rationality. Too perfect, too handsome. How could there be such an impeccable man in this world? I'm so lucky to be born in this era and to be able to meet him at the best age. He just did not know, if a martial arts master like him farted, would it smell good because the conception and governing vessels had been opened and there were no impurities in his body? Blarg. Chen Guang recalled the awkwardness of learning this martial art in the realm of true martial. He shook his head and said, Well, don't ask these useless questions." Say it. Jiang Yage began to act coquettishly. The more he didn't want to talk about it, the more she wanted to know. Chen Guang blushed. "Don't laugh at me." "Okay, I swear I won't laugh." Chen Guang took a deep breath and said, "This move is called the Super Force Crimson Flame Floating Saber that can't lose to the Flaming Saber." Damn, the martial emperor who developed this martial art in the realm of true martial must be a retard. "I won't laugh, I really won't laugh." Jiang Yage was stunned for a few seconds and began to beat her chest and stamped her feet. She really did it. She really endured it, but her chest was almost hammered flat. Chen Guang sighed. In fact, the retarded martial art he learned in the realm of true martial was far more than this. He also had 10 unique skills. Just by saying the names, he could make 1 Buddha born and 2 Buddhas go to heaven, okay? Forget it, it's not important. Well, if there's nothing else, let's go. I'll carry Shi Lu. Although she should be fine, it's better to go to the hospital. Just as he was about to leave, there was a loud noise outside. Chen Guang pricked up his ears and listened. He stopped Jiang Yage again and signaled for her not to act rashly. Indeed, people came, but it was not the armed police or the armed police. The faint human voice drifted in from outside. It was the voice of Fortune Monger. Like father like son, Bao and Song had become a malignant tumor, and his father, Fortune Monger, was to blame. This time, Bao and Song even kidnapped Jiang Yage, but Fortune Monger still braced himself and brought people to deal with the aftermath. However, he was only here to collect his son's corpse. Boss, what situation is this? Why are there so many wolf corpses? Ma Song, why are you asking me? How would I know? My God, what the hell is going on? Why is there such a huge wolf pack? There are at least hundreds of corpses here, right? Boss, there are no bullet holes on these wolves' bodies, and there are no knife marks either. It's a bit like what? It's like they were torn apart by a terrifying force, or crushed to death. The ones here are even worse. They've all been smashed into pieces as if they were thrown into a meat grinder. That's not the most important thing. *CK. These wolves are really big. Silver wolves. My God. Ma Song. Why are there silver wolves here? And they've even been torn into two. This silver wolf is almost the size of a horse. As the local tyrant of Whitewater River, Fortune Sack had heard many stories about wolves from the older generation. Silver wolves were a mutated breed that only appeared once in 100 years. Once they matured, they would be extremely ferocious and powerful. Furthermore, they had astonishing intelligence and were extremely cunning. But what he saw now was the corpse of the Silver Wolf King, who had died a terrible death. Ma Song also leaned over and sucked in a breath of cold air. Fortune Monger stomped his feet anxiously. Quickly search the vicinity. There might have been a very terrifying battle between beasts here. I don't know what happened to Bao and Song. Boss, there's a very strange mound over there. Why do you care about the mound? Find him for me. Gu, didn't you say you're the most familiar with the situation in the mountains? Come, tell me what's going on. Fortune Monger pulled a shifty-eyed skinny man in plain clothes in front of him. The one who could make them rush here more than an hour earlier was this veteran hunter surnamed Gu, Huzi's uncle. At this moment, this hunter surnamed Gu was stunned. Boss Monger, I don't know either. If not for the fact that he could not afford to offend this group of people, Gu would have run away long ago. As a hunter, he knew very well how terrifying the scene was. The Silver Wolf King was a terrifying beast that could even contend with tigers, not to mention its huge size. Yet, it had died such a terrible death. This could only mean that the monster that slaughtered the wolf pack was 10 times scarier than the wolf pack. This was completely beyond his understanding. He even felt that the monster might have become a spirit, just like what was written in the supernatural novels. Perhaps it had something to do with the smooth mound that should not have appeared in the forest. Gu was definitely a genius. He could even buy a lottery ticket because he had guessed it correctly. Boss, found it. Over here. At this moment, there was a scream from further away. Fortune Monger pulled Gu along and ran towards the source of the scream. A minute later, a heart-wrenching scream resounded through the forest. Son, you died so tragically. My son. This is a gunshot wound. Who is it? Who is it? I want to tear him to pieces. Bastard! Bastard! Fortune Monger roared crazily as he knelt in front of Wang and Song's corpse, his hands desperately slapping the muddy water in front of him. He did not look like a billionaire boss at all. He had turned into an old man who had lost a loved one. However, he did not deserve any sympathy at all. The cause that he had sown had now borne this fruit. If Wang and Song had not pushed Shilu into the wolf pack, if he had not fired at Shilu from behind, attempting to use Shilu's flesh and blood as bait, as long as he was willing to kneel down and beg for mercy, and Shilu had not suffered any physical harm, Chen Guang might not have taken his life. Perhaps he would have become a eunuch and suffer for the rest of his life. However, it was his repeated mistakes that pushed him into the abyss, causing Chen Guang to no longer see him as a human being and mercilessly erase his life. However, when a person makes a decision, their personality is the main factor. The nurturing of a person's personality and the environment provided by their parents are the main factors. Wang and Song could be said to have died in the hands of Chen Guang, but it could also be said that he had died in the hands of Fortune Monger himself. There were many rich second-generation heirs in the world, and there were even people like Lin Jingwei, who were second-generation heirs. However, not all of them were so deceitful. Fortune-mongers' cries were so loud that even Jiang Yage, who was far away, could hear them clearly. "He's going to tear you into pieces. What should we do? He's crying so miserably. Serves him right." I'm not bragging, but I reckon that by the time the people sent by Grandpa find out, this father and son pair will have killed at least 2 digits of people. Do you believe me? Jiang Yage said casually. She was not afraid at all. The hardest part had passed. Jiang Yage really did not think that Fortune Monger and his group could pose any threat to her. "Hey, why aren't you saying anything?" Chen Guang finally moved. He got up and walked forward. "I was just thinking about something." "What is it?" "To kill or not to kill?" "Forget it, I have to remove the roots when cutting weeds. In any case, it's not a good thing. If he really uses a few billion to throw at me, it'll be quite annoying." Jiang Yage knew that Chen Guang was going to start a massacre again. Actually, she felt that this might not be a good idea. Chen Guang's hands were stained with too much blood today. However, she was already sick of the father and son pair of the Bao family. She also knew that if they really wanted to pay with their lives, the father and son pair of the Bao family should have died 10 or even 100 times. She had casually asked old Jiang on the phone before. The history of Fortune Monger's rise was indeed quite bloody. However, there were people who supported him in the past and helped him get away with it. He was also very influential in Wuxia County, so it was difficult for the higher-ups to make up their minds to deal with him. Jiang Yage was actually quite annoyed by this. She also could not stand the routine of finding a balance in the political and business circles. Since there were laws, they should be abided by. It was only right to pay with one's life. No matter how rich or how powerful the other party was, there should be a price for doing bad things. However, Wuxia was a complicated society. Many people who committed crimes did not receive the punishment they deserved. Jiang Yage could especially understand why Chen Guang lost his job as the director of the Guangdong General Administration. With his temper, if he really continued to do this, he would be disgusted to death sooner or later. It was even possible that he had seen too many shady things and was angered. If that happened, his grandfather and the others would really have to stand against him. Suddenly, like a ghost, Chen Guang appeared in front of Fortune Monger without warning with his hands behind his back. Between them was Dan and Song's corpse. "I heard that you want to tear my body into pieces? Well, I'm here. Why don't you show me?" Chen Guang looked down at Moneybags without any expression on his face. Ma Song, who was standing behind him, froze. He did not understand how this guy had appeared. A moment ago, there was no one where he was standing, and the next moment he was talking with his hands behind his back. Although the back of his head was facing him, Ma Song felt that he was being stared at by the back of his head. If he moved even a little, he would die. "Chen Guang, did you do it?" Hatred and grief made Fortune Monger forget his fear of martial artists for a moment. He raised his head and stared angrily at Chen Guang, roaring. Chen Guang nodded. "That's right, I did it. I also killed these wolves." And then? As he spoke, he paused and said helplessly, "Actually, I'm a very reasonable person most of the time. However, it seems that I can't reason with you this time. So, I hope that you will remember today's lesson when you cross the bridge of helplessness. If you have a next life, remember to be a good person in your next life and teach your son well." Chen Guang suddenly laughed. He rarely laughed like this. This was because he wanted to hide his inner thoughts. If he had a choice, he would not want to kill. However, there were always people who had to die in this world. Chapter 990. Following Chen Guang's smile, the already chilly late autumn forest suddenly became even colder. Even Jiang Yage, who was peeking in from afar, shuddered and scratched her head. "That's weird, why is it so cold?" Fortune Monger and the others beside Chen Guang could feel it even more clearly. Their teeth chattered as if cold water had been poured over their heads. Fortune Monger, who was furious just a moment ago, immediately sobered up. Fortune Monger thought of the thing that had once left him with an indelible nightmare. He thought of the table that Qin Guang had smashed into pieces that day, and the distance between the two of them. He suddenly woke up. Since his son and his accomplices had died under Qin Guang's hands, then Qin Guang most likely had a gun in his hands. Inner force martial artists were one of the most terrifying existences in the world. How terrifying would an inner force martial artist with a gun be? Fortune Monger didn't know, and he didn't want to experience it. But now, this person was standing in front of him, about to take his life in the next moment. Qin Guang, listen to me. Fortune Monger couldn't care less about his son's corpse. He leaned back and sat on the ground. His legs slowly moved across the muddy ground. As he spoke, he tried to calm Qin Guang down, and at the same time, he wanted to quietly distance himself. As for avenging his son, he couldn't care less. Saving his own life was the most important thing. Qin Guang raised his hands and looked straight at Fortune Monger. He still had that strange smile on his face. He slowly raised his right hand and looked at the miserable Fortune Monger, but there was no change in his emotions. Since he had decided to make a move, it was like an arrow leaving the bow. There was no turning back. He didn't want his soft-heartedness to ruin things. He was deliberately trying to return to the state of mind of the true martial saint emperor. Although he wasn't bloodthirsty, he saw mortals as ants. As long as he stood on the side of justice, he could control the life and death of others. He didn't need to worry about anything. He just needed to kill to avenge himself. Do it. On the other side, Fortune Sack took advantage of the brief moment when Qin Guang had yet to make a move to quietly widen the distance between the two of them by 4 to 5 meters. He then abruptly roared at Ma Song, who was behind Qin Guang. At this time, although Ma Song was still scared to death, he was the captain of Moneybag's bodyguards and the publicly recognized #1 thug of the Tong Yuan group. Back when he was a soldier, he was also a good fighter in the army. After all, he had been on the battlefield, had some skills, and had seen the world. Ma Song regained his clarity. He gritted his teeth and roared, "Kill!" He used almost all the strength in his body to throw the big guy in front of him. He grabbed it tightly with both hands, aimed at Qin Guang's back, and pulled the trigger crazily. Although the others who were standing a little further away were slower than Ma Song, they still took out their weapons after Ma Song. For a moment, sparks flew in all directions, and dense gunshots resounded throughout the forest. Moneybag, who was a few meters away from Qin Guang, finally extricated himself from his fear. He cracked his mouth and laughed hysterically. "So what if you're a martial arts master? I don't believe you won't die." Although the beautiful woman had raised her hand to kill people last time, it was because she had moved too quickly and did not give them time to react. After all, Qin Guang was still young. Although his strength was amazing, he lacked the experience of the dangerous Jianghu. He had been careless. This time he should be dead, right? Moneybag thought as he raised his head and looked in the direction of Qin Guang. The next moment he was stunned. Previously, when Dan and Song fought against Qin Guang, he used 3 pistols, and the bullets were fixed in the air by his internal energy. Now, Moneybag was carrying a big guy with a long pipe, but the result was not much better. Ma Song and the rest were still frantically firing at Qin Guang. However, a cloud of dust suddenly exploded around Qin Guang before the bullets that flickered with a metallic luster fell to the ground one after another. After looking twice, Moneybag was sure that his eyes were not playing tricks on him. He did not know how he did it, but when every bullet was about to reach him, it was blocked by the mud that appeared without warning in its flight path. What kind of monstrous ability is this? Am I dreaming? Clicking sounds came from the submachine gun in Ma Song's hand. He had already emptied an entire magazine. But in front of him, Qin Guang still did not turn around. He was still standing there with his right hand raised. Not to mention blood and wounds, his clothes were not dirty. Ma Song was 100% sure that although he did not hit every time, at least 90% of his bullets should have landed on this guy's body. Not to mention killing him, he wouldn't even be able to make him blink or turn his head. Monster! This is a monster! He's not human. Devil! Moneybag, the most loyal bodyguards, continuously emptied their bullets, but it was all in vain. Their minds were blank, and everything that was happening in front of them was beyond their understanding. As someone who had seen the methods of an inner force martial artist, Moneybag was more shocked than the others. As a hero of the pugilistic world, Chen Guang's methods were many times stronger than that woman's. Just like how it was written in Wuxia novels, the woman could only live in the worldview of the deer and the cauldron. However, Chen Guang was definitely a character from before demigods and semi-devils. He had almost jumped from Jin Yong's novel to Huang Yi's worldview. Why am I so unlucky? Isn't it good for me to be a local tyrant in Baishui? Why did I provoke such a monster? Why did I want to tear him to pieces? Just how big is my heart? That's not right. We've been minding our own business. They only came to Baishui County to film, and I only needed to cooperate with them. I could also ask them to help me advertise my new building. But why did things turn out like this? Unknowingly, Moneybag felt his body become very light, and he slowly floated into the air. Chen Guang was still standing in the same spot, his right hand still raised, far away from him. But Moneybag felt that someone was strangling his neck, and the strength was increasing. His breathing became more and more difficult. Not only him, but the accomplices he brought were also struggling with all their might. It was as if an invisible hand was strangling them, and they floated into the air bit by bit. Only Hunter Gu, who was kneeling on the ground with weak legs, looked on listlessly. He thought that he would be like the others. Moneybag's head drooped slightly, and when he saw Wanansong's corpse on the ground, he finally came to his senses. Yes, it was because of this son of his that he had wanted to hit on Jiang Yage from the beginning, and that was why he had dragged him into yesterday's dinner. In the end, things had gone sour during the dinner, and he had embarrassed himself. Then, even though he had already realized that the situation was not good, he had warned him to behave, and had even placed him under house arrest. But today, he had been released by that prodigal woman, and now things had finally come to this. Perhaps I should have listened to County Head Hu. If I had made up my mind to sacrifice myself earlier, if I hadn't said such reckless words when I found my stupid son's corpse, perhaps I could have really lived on? If my son is gone, I can have another one, and I still have an illegitimate son. But if I die as well, then all my troubles will be over. The restraint on his neck loosened a little, and Moneybag could finally speak. He regretted so much. He regretted that he had been so lenient toward Wanansong, and even more regretted that he had not taken this matter seriously. At first, he had only treated it as a simple case of Wanansong's willfulness. Later, when he realized that something was wrong, he had not really made up his mind to restrain his son. I know that you regret it. Chen Guang put his hands behind his back. If I hadn't provoked you this time, would you not have killed me? Chen Guang smiled. Not necessarily. If I had found out about what you had done through other channels, perhaps I would have been unhappy and you would still have died. But if I didn't know anything, then forget it. Why do you like to meddle in other people's business? I'm happy to. Chen Guang shrugged nonchalantly, then he suddenly clenched his fist. Blood splattered everywhere, and the Bao father and son, as well as Tong Yuan's forces, who had been tyrannical in Baishui County for many years, were completely annihilated. His wealth of hundreds of millions did not allow him to live another second. Jiang Yage had also seen too much blood today, and her nerves had become thick. Seeing the situation, she jogged over. I thought you guys still wanted to talk. Rolling his eyes, Chen Guang replied, you can't give too many lines for the antagonist. Otherwise, what if someone explodes and I kill them? That's true. Jiang Yage held his hand. Then let's go back now? Wait for a while, someone will be coming soon. They still want to kill people? What are you thinking? This time, it's our own people. While the two of them were talking, the lights on the other side of the mountain in the distance lit up. A helicopter rumbled as it flipped over, its bright spotlights sweeping around the forest. Very soon, it discovered the abnormality here, then it turned around and sped up to fly over. Chen Guang and Jiang Yage went to the sand dune house to wait. Standing outside, it was chilly. Chen Guang was not afraid, but Jiang Yage might not be able to withstand it. The helicopter found an empty space nearby and landed. Special forces armed with live ammunition filed out, then jogged all the way over. When they arrived, even the battle-hardened elites of the army were stunned by the sight of the corpses on the ground. Whether it was the dead giant mutated wolf on the ground, or the mangled bodies of Fortune Sack and his men, or the 9 men with holes in their foreheads, they all gave the dense forest a strange and terrifying smell of blood after the rain. This scene was simply too terrifying, too absurd. "We are here." When the soldiers got closer, Jiang Yage instinctively wanted to get up and greet them. However, Qin Guang stopped her. "Don't be anxious. These people are still very nervous now. If you jump out rashly, what if you scare them and they shoot you?" Before he could finish his sentence, the Special Forces soldiers who had already heard the commotion turned around nervously. They gestured to each other and then disappeared into the forest. They formed a jungle battle formation and approached quietly but quickly. Chen Guang pressed Jiang Yage into the sand dune and walked out himself. Okay, relax a little. I'm Chen Guang, I've saved the hostages." Just as he finished speaking, a few soldiers with cold expressions stood out from hiding, their guns aimed at him, as if they were facing a formidable enemy. They clearly did not let down their guard. Chapter 991. You're Qin Guang? Nonsense. Isn't Qin Guang a big bald head? Aren't Deng Xiaojiang's crew over there? Who the hell are you? Raise your hands. Obviously, these soldiers didn't know that Qin Guang had come over. They were too nervous to recognize Qin Guang. Slap. The soldier who spoke was slapped on the back of his head. Then, a wretched-looking, skinny, middle-aged man stepped out from the crowd and came forward with a straight face. Mr. Director, I was wondering why the scene was so bloody. I didn't expect you to be here. I understand now. All of you, put down your guns. You're pointing your guns at the chief of the Guangding General Headquarters. Are you trying to rebel? When Chen Guang turned around, he saw a fellow with a sallow complexion that was brimming with vigor. He didn't expect to meet an acquaintance here. It was the leader of the Xinxing faction, Dai Quan. It seemed that after his resignation, the relationship between the Guangding General Headquarters and the higher-ups was getting closer and closer. Since he took the plane with these Special Forces soldiers, he should have been in the military base from the beginning. Chief, you've worked hard. Are you okay? Hey, look at my stupid mouth. You'll be fine even if the sky falls. Hey, I say, why are you guys still so nervous? Relax, all of you relax for me. Our chief is here. Do you need to make such a fuss? Interrupting Dai Quan's words, Qin Guang continued, All right, stop trying to intimidate me. I'm no longer your chief. Don't bring your tricks to work. Jiang Yage, come out. Jiang Yage had wanted to come out long ago. She wanted to teach this group of Special Forces soldiers a lesson. But Qin Guang calmed her down. All right, control yourself. They're here to save you and they mean well. When the Special Forces soldiers saw Jiang Yage, they completely relaxed and calmed down. Chen Guang thought about it and decided not to greet Dai Quan. Instead, he carried the unconscious Shi Lu onto the helicopter and asked Jiang Yage to follow the helicopter. I'm not leaving. All right, you've also caught a cold. Let's go to the hospital for a checkup. If necessary, get a transfusion to prevent any sequelae. Getting a cold during menstruation doesn't seem too good. What if it affects the filming? Jiang Yage was stunned. You're still filming? Chen Guang shrugged. Why not? Only Shi Lu was affected. Big Beard and the others didn't know what was going on here. The crew's daily expenses are more or less hundreds of thousands of yuan. We should save as much as we can. Jiang Yage thought about it and realized that it was reasonable. Of the entire crew, only Shi Lu was frightened, but she was not the main creator, so it did not affect the filming. Although something had happened tonight, the Earth still had to keep turning, right? She was really insensitive and had a strong endurance. Today's incident did not leave any psychological trauma on her. Then I'll leave first? Hurry up and get Big Beard to arrange for people to wait in the county. Your manager, Zhou Yun, is in the county? Yes. That's good. Take care of Shilu too. You're attracted to someone? Knocking on Jiang Ye's head, Chen Guang replied, move your ass. Someone else became a scapegoat for you, and that's why they're in this mess. I feel bad about it, alright? Jiang Ye was amused. She looked at him happily. You feel bad for someone else because of me? Chen Guang was indignant. Of course. This is basic human behavior, okay? The soldier turned around and urged, Director Chen, Miss Jiang, how much longer? After confirming Chen Guang's identity, the attitude of these soldiers towards Chen Guang took a 180-degree turn. They were now respectful. As for Chen Guang, the chief instructor of Shun's special training camp, when Chen Guang was still in his honeymoon period with the old patriarchs, whether it was learning about the political mission or passing it on by word of mouth, it was widely spread in the military. It was just that Chen Guang had a shiny bald head when he appeared in front of the camera for a long time. His bald head was so distinctive that many soldiers who did not pay attention to popular news didn't know that his hair had grown back. That was why they didn't recognize him just now. Watching Jiang Ye and Shi Lu board the military helicopter, Chen Guang pulled Dai Quan with a grim expression. Faction leader Dai, what do you think of these wolves? Dai Quan looked around. The other Special Forces soldiers who did not follow the military helicopter were holding cameras and flashlights, checking the dead bodies one by one. These people frowned from time to time, and then secretly looked at Chen Guang with slightly fearful eyes. Then, they quickly pretended to be nonchalant and continued to check the scene. These bastards. Alright, keep it in. I'm asking you about the wolves. Director Chen, don't call me faction leader. I can't take it. Keep it in. Brother Chen, in my opinion, there must be something fishy about this. Dai Quan finally became honest. Although it was a little inappropriate to call Chen Guang Brother Cheng at his age, in the underworld, the strongest had the final say. It was not a big deal even if he called Chen Guang Brother Cheng. Can't you show some professionalism? Truth be told, Chen Guang knew everything about the mutated wolves, but he had a deeper meaning behind asking Dai Quan about it. He wanted to know if these giant mutated wolves were difficult to deal with in the eyes of an experienced veteran like Dai Quan. Chen Guang had a faint worry that irreversible changes had already happened. Since he had encountered a giant mutated wolf here today, maybe there were mutated bears, mutated tigers, or even mutated humans in other places. Animals could mutate, and of course, humans could also be mutated. Chen Guang could not help but think of one thing. The thief who smashed Wu Tong's bones with a mobile phone, and then suddenly died while in custody. Of course, it would hurt when a mobile phone hit a person's body, but under the circumstances of such a close distance, it was still a bit too exaggerated to break the bones of a well-trained elite police officer like Wu Tong on the spot. As for the person's sudden death, it was even more inexplicable. Unfortunately, Chen Guang did not pay attention to it at that time, and did not follow Wu Tong to check the body. Now that he thought about it, it could be said that it was extremely terrifying. It was very likely that the thief had mutated like the pack of wolves, allowing him to explode his potential in a short period of time and use strength far beyond that of an ordinary person. However, his body's functions could not keep up with his mutation, and after overexerting his physical strength, his organs rapidly dried up, and he finally died in custody. Linking these two events together, if his guess was correct, then it could prove one thing. The concentration of the power of the Holy Grail on Earth was enough to cause other creatures to mutate without opening the world in the cup. Although Chen Guang could not be sure and had not come to a conclusion, he felt that he had to pay attention to it. It would be best if he was overthinking, but if it really happened, then he had to think about how to deal with the situation. He himself was invincible, and any mutated creature was nothing but dust in front of him. However, he was only one person after all, and did not have the ability or energy to shine like the sun. Of course, it was extremely difficult for ordinary people to deal with mutated creatures, and the risk was extremely high. If he had to rely on someone, Chen Guang felt that he could only rely on an inner force martial artist. Seeing Chen Guang's serious expression, Dai Quan calmed himself down and squatted next to the Silver Wolf King's corpse. He bent down and carefully examined it. This guy was unusually large, and his strength must be amazing, but he died a little too miserably. I was the one who tore it into two with my bare hands, and at that time, I used about 1/10 of my strength. Dai Quan's body trembled. 1/10? Chen Guang shrugged. All right, 1/10. Then this wolf is very powerful. Yes, this wolf can also spit out silver light from its mouth, which is no different from a hidden weapon. Its power is probably equivalent to the special sniper rifle bullets you have seen in individual military exercises. Brother Chin, according to what you said, with my ability in close combat, I can probably deal with 2 to 3 of these wolves, no more than that. Although the people of Xinxing sect are not good at fighting, Dai Quan, should be in the top 100 in the police force. I understand, Qin Guang replied. The two chatted casually, and not long after, the other 2 helicopters and Baishuia County's armed police arrived one after another. The ground was covered in blood, and County Magistrate Hu and the other officials, who were wearing leather shoes, were vomiting nonstop. The weaker police officers were not much better. Looking at the miserable state of the Bao father and son, County Magistrate Hu had known them for many years, could not help but feel sad. Tragic, this is really tragic. The chubby county magistrate who looked at Qin Guang, who was inspecting the wolf corpses with Dai Quan, and his heart was chilled to the bone. Fortunately, this incident happened too quickly, and he did not have time to drag Fortune Monk into this mess. Yesterday, he had received a call from the higher-ups, and he had also talked to a few police chiefs in the county who might have dragged Bao and Tsang into this mess, especially the people from the scenic area police station. No one had made any unforgivable mistakes. The heavens were truly watching over them. Fortunately, the hostage was fine and was still alive and kicking. Although he did not know why there was another minor actor who seemed to be in a bad condition, as long as Jiang Yage was fine, everything was fine. It seemed that he did not have to run anymore. Mr. Chin, why don't you go back and rest first? We will cooperate with the military personnel to clean up the aftermath, and we will definitely give you a satisfactory explanation. Chen Guang turned to look at County Magistrate Hu, not interested in talking to him. The Bao father and son had been domineering in Baishuia County for so many years, and as the local official, it was impossible for Fatty Hu not to have some illicit relations with them. The incident happened in a hurry, and old Jiang only called 3 helicopters. However, the top military and political leaders of Kainan province must have already taken action secretly. Together with the investigation team that set off overnight the night before yesterday, they must have sent a large number of troops to the border by tomorrow morning at the latest. By that time, the official earthquake in Baishuia County would almost begin. At that time, Fatty Hu would be the first to bear the brunt. The rest would be dealt with one by one, and no one would be able to escape. It's just a small problem. It's fine as long as she's fine. You guys have nothing to explain to me anyway, so you can continue with your work. Dai Quan, come with me over there. I have something to tell you. Chen Guang dismissed the chubby county magistrate who then pulled Dai Quan aside and instructed him with a solemn expression, you must go back and explain everything clearly to the 2 deputy directors, including the methods of these strange wolves that I just told you. Remember them all. Don't let your guard down. This matter can be big or small. Understood. You have to help the 2 deputy directors. If the situation that I'm most worried about really happens, I'm afraid. Afraid of what? I'm afraid that no one in this world can stay out of trouble. Chapter 992. Chen Guang added another sentence in his heart. His sin was so great that there was no limit to it. Dai Quan sucked in a breath of cold air. It's that serious? Actually, in the records of our sect's inheritance, there have been many ferocious beasts that have appeared since ancient times. This is different. Dai Quan nodded. I understand. Then I'll leave first. Alright, take care. Don't worry about the matters here. I'm here on behalf of the Guangding Bureau. I'm the highest commander here, so I can handle it. That's good. Chen Guang quickly disappeared into the dense forest. He planned to go to the tent camp to get the cup, then follow them to the hospital in Wuxia County. He sped all the way, his speed not much slower than a helicopter flying in the sky. His expression was somewhat heavy. Although he had killed countless people tonight, and the result could be considered okay, Shilu was safe and sound, the father and son of the Bao family were completely dead, and the entire crew was in a false alarm. No one was hurt, and perhaps the green mountains and clear waters of Wuxia County could be restored. He could not feel happy. He could not help but imagine an overwhelming number of mutated monsters, mutated tigers, lions, wolves, black bears, and even all kinds of domesticated animals. There might even be insects like mosquitoes, flies, fleas, and crickets attacking humans in a frenzy. Or it could be like the thief. Some ordinary people with poor self-control suddenly obtained a power beyond their understanding and could not extricate themselves from it. They relied on their superior abilities to do evil, lawless, and disrupted the social order. No matter which of the two situations happened, it could be said to be a catastrophic result that affected the entire human race. This would cause chaos in the entire social order, and who knew how much blood would be shed and how many people would die before order could be restored. That scene was simply like a Hollywood doomsday movie. Thinking about this, how could Chen Guang feel relaxed in his heart? I'm still a good person after all. Who would have thought that the power of the Holy Grail leaking out from a broken cup could not only look cool, but also cause other creatures to mutate? What can I do? I'm also in despair. The cup is just there, and I can't stop the power of the Holy Grail from increasing in the outside world. Forget it, even if I have to risk being beaten to death by Lioli, I have to go back and ask her for a solution. This can't go on. I have to do something. Chen Guang thought of utopia during the second punishment world. At that time, the world in the cup had completely merged with the real world. Under the incomparably abundant earth elemental energy, everyone in utopia had mutated. If the concentration of the power of the Holy Grail continued to increase, there was no guarantee that such a situation wouldn't occur in the future. My heart is so tired and aching. I'm just a cute little handsome guy. I just want to happily learn skills and act cool. Then, I'll build a statue and gain faith. Then, I'll pass through world in cup one after another while lying down. If he could survive until he completed 3,000 missions without dying of old age, he might be able to smoothly become a god and save Azure, the unlucky god emperor, from the cup. When he became a god, he would be able to ascend to the heavens. He would be able to enlighten all the girls that he liked, had a good relationship with, or were beautiful and cute, so that everyone could enjoy happiness with him. If his luck was better in the future, he might even be able to go to the endless divine realm and be patted on the shoulder by the great god of chaos. Young man, thank you for saving my daughter. I can satisfy all your wishes. Then, he would be able to happily lie down in the god realm as a god emperor. He would have billions of cute girls, and he would be able to make friends with a few goddesses all day long and so on. I don't want much, don't mess with me like this. I really don't want to drag all of humanity down with me. I also don't want to create a scene as big as the end of the world. This pot is too big, too heavy. The old man can't bear it. With this thought in mind, Chen Guang first contacted the bearded man and confirmed that they had already arrived at the hotel in the scenic area. He also helped them pack up their belongings in the tent. Then, he rushed back to the hotel at a speed that was even faster than when he was rescuing Lioli. Without another word, he grabbed his bag and prepared to hide in the toilet to have a calm conversation with Lioli. Sigh. Chen Guang, wait a minute. Seeing that Chen Guang was about to close the toilet door, Big Beard hurriedly stopped him from outside. What? I plan to bring some people to the county to visit Shilu. What about you? Are they all right? Chen Guang thought for a moment. Jiang Yage is fine, but Shilu might have caught a cold. Wait for me for a minute. Find a good car. I'll drive you there after I come out of the toilet. He had thought about it. It was better not to tell anyone about his massacre today. When Shilu woke up, Jiang Yage would also tell her about it. Although the people he killed were people who deserved to be killed, this kind of thing was still a little scary in the eyes of ordinary people. It was fine as long as it was over. There was no need to make a big deal out of it. Otherwise, if the filming couldn't continue, the past 2 months of effort would have been wasted. Big Beard nodded. By the way, you're not hurt, are you? Are you kidding me? It's not that I'm bragging to you, but even if your friend Xianxia used the purple and green dual swords in Heroes of Shushan a few years ago to stab me in the armpit, I would still be able to clamp them. I'm not talking to you anymore, I'm in a hurry. When Chen Guang finished speaking, he slammed the toilet door shut. Big Beard raised his hand to say something, but he was a step too slow. He scratched his head and said, "The cup of water? You want me to hold it for you? That's not very nice." 30 seconds later, Chen Guang opened the door. Big Beard jumped back. "For you. It's me. Cut the crap. Let's go. Let's go to the county." Big Beard's eyes widened. He pointed at Chen Guang's head, which was obviously twice as big. "But your head, it's okay. Don't mind the details." Chen Guang didn't want to pay attention to him. He hid his face and walked out. His fingers accidentally touched the corner of his mouth, and he grimaced in pain. Big Beardy looked at his back, and his mind was filled with O'Neill's big question mark. He muttered to himself, "What the hell? It's only been a few seconds and there's no sound at all. How did he get hurt like this? Also, what happened to the armpit catching the purple and green dual swords? Did you use your face to catch Sun Wukong's Jingu Bang?" Chen Guang, who was walking in front, recalled the encounter just now. He was really angry. Damn, Lu Li's hand is really ruthless. He felt that if it wasn't for the super active Mother Earth explosive ability in the world in the cup, he wouldn't have been beaten half to death. Wait, this doesn't seem to be good news. The stronger my recovery ability, the more difficult it is for me to die. Isn't it easier for her to beat me up? Am I not the highest level human sandbag in the world? What the F***CK? No wonder she was so ruthless just now. Wasn't it because she knew she couldn't beat me to death? Forget it. Just let me die. Chen Guang subconsciously wanted to cover his forehead to express his condolences. His hand was about to touch it when he remembered there was a bag on his head. He was angry, but there was nothing he could do. Today's beating was in vain. Let's go back to a minute ago, from the moment Chen Guang entered the world in the cup. "You're finally here. I thought you could hide outside for the rest of your life." The sound of bones cracking could be heard. "Sister Lu Li, listen to my explanation. Bang! If you hit me again, I'll fight back. Bang bang. I really fought back. Bang bang bang. I thought we were friends. We'll be friends when I calm down." Deer Cry grew a super long leaf and fanned Lu Li. "That's right. Sister Lu Li, you're tired, right? Come and cool down." Chen Guang didn't know how much time had passed outside, but he felt that he had at least endured a century in the world in the cup. Actually, when he first came in and saw Lu Li, who had once again turned into an African miss, he knew that he wouldn't have it easy this time. In short, no matter how difficult it was, he had finally endured it. The most infuriating thing was that he couldn't get the power of the Holy Grail from the outside world. At that time, he communicated with Lu Li, who had finally calmed down. "Sister Lu Li, anyway, you're not angry anymore. Can we talk about some serious matters? The situation is really urgent." "Go ahead." "You saw the power of the Holy Grail from the outside world, right?" "I know. I also met a mutated creature with elemental abilities today." "I know too." "Then why is this happening? You triggered the realm of punishment twice, and the world in the cup fused with the real world twice. Although the fusion was dissolved afterwards, there was a connection between the two worlds, so the power of the Holy Grail kept leaking out." "Two worlds? What the hell? I forgot to tell you. When you triggered the realm of punishment, it was a special world in the Holy Grail called the Real World that was created for you after it completely fused with your world. The level of this real world is the same as the realm of life. There are a total of 9 special worlds that are on the same level as the realm of life and the real world." "Damn, there's such bad luck? Why didn't you say so earlier? You wouldn't understand even if I told you." "Forget it. Then why would the power of the Holy Grail leak? Oh no, I don't know either. If I could figure out the secret of this broken cup, would I still be locked up here? That's true. Is there any way to remedy this? There isn't. Stop messing around. You're a god emperor. I'm just a god emperor locked up in the Holy Grail. Thank you. Then I can only watch helplessly? Congratulations, you got it right, but there's no reward. Then if the power of the Holy Grail continues to increase in the outside world, when will a large number of mutated creatures appear? I don't know. Then what else do you know? Tell me what I should do now. Liuli smiled calmly. I'll leave you with a sentence. Everything will work out when it comes to it. You've learned to answer first. Let me add another sentence for you. Everything will work out when it comes to it. In any case, Chen Guang suffered for nothing and came out with a bitter smile. To have met such an unreliable god emperor, yet he hadn't been killed by her yet. His zodiac sign must be that of a cockroach. Squinting his swollen eyes while driving at lightning speed, Chen Guang looked at the distant skyline and thought to himself, forget it. Since things have come to this, there's no point in begging for help. I can only do as Liuli said and take things one step at a time. If it's a blessing, it's not a curse. If it's a curse, it can't be avoided. Since I can't resist it, I might as well close my eyes and enjoy the torture of life. If the sky is really going to fall, since it's all my fault, I'll just brace myself and bear it. Otherwise, what else can I do? Big Beard Deng, who was sitting in the front passenger seat, turned to look at Chen Guang, then tilted his head back. Damn, this swelling is going down too fast. Are you a 1,000-year-old Yunnan white herb that has gained sentience? When the car arrived at the county hospital and got off, Big Beard looked at Chen Guang again, only to find that his son's swollen head had completely recovered. Chen Guang. Uncle, don't look at me like that. I know I'm very handsome now. Chapter 993. Big Beard was full of doubts. He didn't know if he had lost his memory or if he was seeing things. Yang Shi and Old Ma, the field manager, were sitting in the back row. When they got on the car, Chen Guang was already sitting in the driver's seat. The two of them didn't look at Chen Guang up close like Big Beard did, so they didn't know what was going on. Instead, they felt that Big Beard was a little embarrassed. When they arrived at the ward, Jiang Yage was already asleep on the accompanying bed, while Shi Lu was also sleeping with a glucose drip. The four of them didn't disturb their rest, but pulled the attending doctor on duty to inquire about them. Jiang Yage's physique was as tough as her nerves. She fainted from the cold during her menstrual period, and after she recovered, there was no abnormality. It seemed that the dance and fitness she had done in order to maintain her figure had not been in vain. Shi Lu, on the other hand, was a little weak after being shocked and suffering from a cold. She needed to rest for 2 days. Miss Shi woke up once before. Her body is fine, but she seems to have suffered a lot of stimulation. Her mental state is a little unstable. The doctor also knew Deng Xiaojiang. Director Deng is really a responsible director. It's already early in the morning, but he still personally came to care about the patient's condition. Big Beard blushed from the praise. He thought to himself, how could I not come? One was Jiang Yage, and the other was his old friend's niece. No matter who it was, they were not ordinary artists. He chuckled and nodded repeatedly. It's good that you're fine, that's good. The doctor continued, I really didn't expect a big star like Jiang Yage to be willing to accompany others in the hospital. No wonder my child is so infatuated with her. I used to think that celebrity artists were very arrogant. What a considerate and gentle girl. You flatter me. Chen Guang and the others chatted with the doctor for a while and then walked out of the door. At this time, Zhou Yun was helping Jiang Yage out of the ward. She scolded, My lady, how could you sleep in the hospital? If someone finds out, you'll be surrounded by the whole hospital tomorrow morning. The doctor beside Chen Guang and the others also scratched his head and said, Actually, I tried to persuade Miss Jiang to find another place to rest, but she said that you asked her to take good care of the patient, so she refused to leave. Jiang Yage looks up at Qin Guang in a daze. She feels refreshed. Qin Guang, you're here. Shh. Lower your voice. This is a hospital. Chen Guang quickly gestured to her. The group of people went to the big hotel where they stayed before coming here. Jiang Yage was so sleepy that she could not take it anymore, so she went back to her room to rest. Chen Guang, Zhou Yun, Big Beard Deng, Zhou Ye, Ren Chong, Zhao Yueling, and the other main cast members who arrived later, sat together for a simple meeting. Big Beard synthesizes Zhou Yun's opinion. In fact, he mainly wanted to find out Jiang Yage's attitude. After confirming that there were no problems, he was relieved. After a discussion, they decided to let the entire production crew rest at the hotel in the scenic area for a day. No one would go out for the time being. They would observe the situation and take it as a rest. They would decide if the production crew could return to work the day after tomorrow. Shilu might not be able to recover, but she was only a stunt double after all. Her absence would not affect the overall situation. Alright, this incident is over without any mishaps. If there's nothing else, from the day after tomorrow, let's finish all the scenes in one go. Big Beard forcefully raised his spirits and encouraged the others. The other main cast members were also energized. Chen Guang did not express any opinions throughout. Looking at Big Beard and the others who were in high spirits, he could not help but envy them. They did not know how many people had died in the mountains. The situation this time was special. Perhaps the entire Wuxia County military and police who had been at the scene would be ordered to keep their mouths shut. The official explanation given to Big Beard was also very interesting. The hostage-taker, Bao and Song, found his conscience under persuasion and took the initiative to return the hostages intact. Tong Yuan Corporation's chairman, Bao Fa Kai, also took the initiative to explain the problem. Currently, they had entered the stage of investigating other cases. The hostage kidnapping incident was considered to have come to an end. The official explanation was very reasonable. Big Beard Deng could only believe it even if he did not want to. Naturally, this was what he told the others as well. As for the only 3 people in the production crew who knew about the incident, Qin Guang, Jiang Yage, and Shilu, they would not say anything. Therefore, it was precisely because they did not know anything that they were fearless. Chen Guang envied their fearlessness because they were ignorant. Of course, continuing to film was also his own idea, so he did not expose them. As the saying went, when the entire Wuxia officialdom was uprooted the day after tomorrow, he would not have to worry about the Bao father and son having any loyal underlings outside. If one doesn't look out for oneself, heaven and earth will destroy them. To avenge the old master who had already met the king of hell, and the target of revenge was this country, this was simply a multiple-choice question. If they could not uproot the entire Wuxia corruption even with old Master Jiang behind the scenes, then all Chen Guang could say was, "I look down on you people in power too much." He did not have the time to worry about others. In fact, he did not have the ability to pray for the world. Although Lioli's words were useless, they were not unreasonable. Now that things had come to this, he had no other choice but to resign himself to fate. Instead of worrying about a disaster that had yet to happen but could not be stopped, he might as well eat and sleep as he should. When the world really fell, he would be able to find the problem and think of a way to solve it. Although his iron fist was invincible, he did not know where the enemy was at all. It was not like he could rush to the roof and roar at the sky, then punch through the air and kill all the potential mutant creatures in the world, right? Therefore, what was done, and life still had to go on. The show still had to be filmed, and the money still had to be earned. The more disaster was imminent, the more he could not be in a mess. He should cherish the present and do what was in front of him. He should build a few more statues as soon as possible and think of ways to accumulate more faith points. Of course, it was not that Qin Guang did not plan to do anything. He had thought of buying more houses in the villa area near the school. It did not matter if he was bluffing or forcing them. In short, he had to think of a way to bring his family to Wujing. If something really happened, he had to save his own people first. Also, he had to warn those who were on good terms with him one by one. If he could get all of them to come to his side, he should not let them go. Of course, he could not tell them in detail. Even if he did, others might not believe him. It was better to scare them. However, things like mutant creatures were hard to guard against. For example, if Lu Fei listened to his suggestion and arranged 100 bodyguards at home, but once the mutation started, dozens of crazy mutants would jump out of the bodyguards. Wouldn't that be harming her instead? Other than taking one step at a time, what else could he do? With these chaotic thoughts in his mind, Chen Guang couldn't sleep tonight. He breathed in the air in the room, but his mind could not get rid of the feeling that what he breathed in was the power of the Holy Grail. Other than oxygen and carbon dioxide, there was also elemental power that was exchanging with his blood. He thought of a song by Wang Lin, Change the World. If he was not tone-deaf, he would really want to close the door and sing a song. For hours later, the sky outside was just beginning to brighten, and the rumbling sound of cars could be heard from the street outside. Chen Guang got up and stood in front of the window to look. A long line of cars was driving past on the street below. Old Master Zhang's methods came faster than he had imagined, and it was indeed like a thunderbolt. This day was destined to be an extraordinary day for the entire Baishuya County. Many people were still asleep when they were suddenly shackled by the military and police who barged in and took them to the cars. Among these people were the fat old Shen from the Scenic Area Police Station, Song Liangji from the county branch, and many others from different departments. There were also several other senior executives of the Tongyuan Group and their relatives. Even some people who had more or less done business with the Tongyuan Group over the years were not spared. Not only that, even some of the people in the city who had deep collusion with the Baishui gang were detained at almost the same time. Some of them already had more solid evidence, and some were still in the process of collecting evidence. But since they had decided to make a move, of course they would rather arrest the wrong person than let them go. They would first arrest and interrogate them, and at the same time collect evidence. If they were proven innocent in the end, they would be released and restored to their positions. If they were found to be dirty, then their political career would be over, and based on the facts of their crimes, depending on the seriousness of the circumstances, they would have to spend how long in prison. In short, once there was a problem, they would be dealt with severely and would not be lenient. Many people had been unlucky because of this matter. Such a large-scale arrest had been rare in recent years. If they had to blame someone, they could only blame the people in Baishui County. They felt that the sky was high and the emperor was far away. They had lost themselves in money and power, and were so bold that it was frightening. Of course, they were also unlucky enough. If they hadn't run into the hands of Qin Guang and Jiang Yage, they wouldn't have been wiped out. It could only be said that Heaven's Net had a long way to go. They had been doing evil for decades, and finally retribution had come. Some things were like this. Before the lid was lifted, no one knew how smelly it was underneath. But once the table is flipped, then every sin you have committed in the past will be slowly investigated by others and turned into a sharp blade of punishment that will slice off your flesh piece by piece. People who had done all kinds of evil always had fear in their hearts. If they were lucky, they might be able to live a peaceful life. After death, everything would be for naught, and it wouldn't matter even if their graves were dug up. The unlucky ones were probably the same as the Bao father and son and the people in Baishui County. What awaited them was a thunderous method and an unpredictable heavenly might that descended from the sky. They would not reason with you and would punish you whenever they wanted. Even the entire Kainan province was silent out of fear. At this time, whoever dared to stand up and plead for the people in Baishuya at this juncture would be courting death. At 8:30 in the morning, Central TV Department 1's morning news was the first to broadcast the Baishuya case, officially setting the case in stone. In the evening, the news broadcast listed a long and shocking list, and more detailed information was directly published on the websites of several major official mouthpieces in the country. Chapter 994. Big Beard Deng, who was reviewing the script with a few of the main cast members and browsing the web on his tablet from time to time, felt his eyelids twitching. Terrible, it's really terrible. It's really a one-pot kill. As he spoke, he secretly looked at Jiang Yage, whose face was blushing as she scribbled on the script. She was not listening to him at all. Big Beard thought of the countless military and police officers that had been scurrying around the entire Baishui County today, and he was also a little frightened. The power of heaven was vast and mighty, and the mortals suffered. This whole incident was really too thorough. There were about 50 to 60 people listed on the list, but in fact, there were at least 15 cars that had been captured outside the hotel and taken away. There were at least 10 people in each car. Chen Guang stretched and said indifferently, "This is karma. If people don't do bad things, they won't suffer the wrath of the heavens. Don't you think so, uncle?" Big Beard Deng pursed his lips and finally couldn't help saying, "That's the logic." He didn't continue. There were thousands of evil people in the world, but not everyone would provoke Jiang Yage, and not everyone would be unlucky. However, he knew that although he had a high status in the entertainment industry, he was still a relatively high-level actor. This kind of inside and outside of the imperial city was not something he should care about, let alone comment on. He gathered his thoughts again and tilted his head to look at Jiang Yage. He looked up to see what she was scribbling on the script, and then he was shocked. "My missy, don't add any more sex scenes. You wrote so much, I don't dare to do it. Don't get me into trouble." Jiang Yage's face turned even redder and she put the script in her arms. "I just wrote it for fun. I don't need you to peek at it." Big Beard felt a little stifled. The female lead changed the script, and he, as the director, didn't let her see it. Why was he so bitter? Chen Guang snatched the script from Jiang Yage's arms and looked at it. Then his eyes widened. "Oh my God, your scale is too big. I don't even dare to read it out loud. I'm afraid that the ninth heaven Shen thunder will descend from the sky and strike us into ashes." "It's not as incredible as you make it sound." Jiang Yage refused to comply. Chen Guang said mysteriously, "You still don't believe in the matters of immortals? If you don't believe in God and Buddha, you will eventually suffer a great loss." Jiang Yage stared blankly at Chen Guang's face for a long time before saying, "I believe you." Chen Guang raised his hand and pointed to the sky. "That's right. These things happen when you believe in them. Although a gentleman doesn't talk about strange powers and gods, there are gods 3 feet above us." Jiang Yage stepped on his foot. "Speak properly. You've become so strange today." Chen Guang leaned back. "That's because I have something on my mind." If there weren't outsiders around, Jiang Yage really wanted to pinch his hand and comfort him not to care about what happened yesterday. The next morning, the crew set off from the hotel again to shoot the remaining 2 scenes at the Great Waterfall. When they got out of the car, everyone felt that the air had become especially fresh. Shilu didn't follow them. Instead, she rested in the hotel. She was a little unwilling to give up and tried to get into shape. However, the performance that she put on by forcing herself to put on couldn't be appreciated by others. In the end, she could only give up. Before they knew it, more than a month had passed in the blink of an eye. The entire crew traveled all over the country, flying up and down to 7 or 8 places in the country. They even made a trip to Europe. When Big Beard Deng finally announced that the exterior scenes were done, everyone let out a long sigh of relief. They were finally free. During this period of time, Chen Guang followed the crew up and down, but he didn't stay idle. He really took out 50 million yuan from the Tianguang Group's cash and bought 7 villas in one go in the newly developed villa district near the school. While he was handling the money, he thought of the 170 million yuan that he had lost. He thought that Lu Li had calmed down, so he hurriedly entered the cup world, intending to ask her. However, before he could say anything, he was beaten up again. This time, he tried to resist, but Lu Ming used leaves to tie him up like a dumpling and hung him in the air. He didn't get to ask anything, and he was beaten up for nothing, which made him extremely angry. Chen Guang still didn't know that after he left the cup world, Lu Li and Lu Ming also heaved a long sigh of relief. Lu Li patted her chest. "We finally got away with it. I was so nervous." Lu Ming also shook his fruit. "Yeah, it was really dangerous. If he found out that the money was wasted, then Sister Lu Li, it would be really embarrassing for you." If Chen Guang knew that the two of them had actually calmed down a long time ago and were only afraid that he would ask about the money, he would probably vomit 3 liters of blood. However, his plan to get everyone over did not succeed in the end, and it had completely failed. He had been hit in the head by his father first. Chen Guoli's reason was simple and sufficient. He and Feng Rong's friends were all in Lilai County. It was difficult to find people to play mahjong in Wujing. Now that the dust pollution in the country was serious, the PM2.5 near Wujing often went up to 400. Although your mother is recovering very well now, she is still a person who has had a kidney transplant. If she breathes in too much dust, it will be too much pressure on the immune system. If the illness recurs, it will be terrible. Chen Guang said that I will put 2 air purifiers in a room, and Chen Guoli said that you want me and your mother to go to jail? Won't go out for the rest of my life? Well, in short, this matter was over. Even his parents couldn't pull him, let alone other relatives and friends. However, Chen Guang couldn't tell them what he was worried about. What could he say? The end of the world is coming. I met an elemental wolf that can spit fireballs and shoot ice needles. The people in this world are starting to mutate. Maybe the mosquitoes in the house will mutate. What he said was the truth, but Chen Guang felt that he might be ruthlessly sent to a mental hospital by his father. So in the end, Chen Guang's idea was completely ruined. Even his parents were like this, let alone other people. Fortunately, except for Zhuo Jingxi and Tang Ying, who were now in the United States, most of the people who were close to Chen Guang were gathered near Wujing, so the situation was not as bad as it seemed. As long as there was a car around, if something really happened, he would be able to rush over immediately. But if a stray dog or cat suddenly changed and was slashed by the neck, it would be futile even if Chen Guang brought everyone to the 5 capitals. After all, it was impossible for Chen Guang to watch over them 24/7. Just like Chen Guoli, although he didn't know what happened, he could hear Chen Guang's worry. However, he didn't take it seriously and comforted him. Don't scare yourself all day long. Even if you are really unlucky, don't some people choke to death when drinking water? As a person, you have to believe in fate. Chen Guang could only pinch his nose and accept it. In the past few days, although he relied on the acting skills of the world-class best actor to smoothly survive, he didn't have an easy time. During this time, the first thing he did after opening his eyes was to run to the window and look outside. Then he took out his phone and quickly read the news on the internet. Then he would run to find someone to chat with. In particular, he couldn't let go of any pets he saw in front of him. He talked about life with the hotel's gatekeeper, talked about ideals with the husky who went out early in the morning and was left by its owner, or compared reactions with the British shorthair who passed by with a beautiful girl who lived in the same hotel. He was about to tire himself out. If it weren't for the fact that he had experienced many storms and had a strong psychological endurance, he felt that he would have almost had a nervous breakdown. The purpose of doing these things was also very simple. He was afraid that when he woke up, the world would no longer be the same as it was before. Every time he got a definite answer, he felt as if he had survived a disaster and had another day of peace. In the eyes of those who didn't know, the sun would rise as usual every day. But in his eyes, maybe the sun would disappear one day and the moon would become 2. Unfortunately, he couldn't tell anyone about this. He could only bear the pressure by himself. This situation exhausted a great deal of his energy, but it wasn't as if Chen Guang didn't accomplish anything in the past month. On Tianguang Media's side, hi. My God. This new variety show had already started recording smoothly. Chu Zijin led the team and fumbled around. Fortunately, with the help of the mature team sent by Xiaotsong, they smoothly recorded the first 4 episodes. The online copyright was directly given to Xiaotsong's Bamboo platform. Seeing that he had given people away and supported the 30 million for publicity, they didn't take a single cent from the licensing fee. As for the licensing of the television station, after many investigations, they finally decided on Jiangnan Province's Department 1, which was relatively strong in variety shows among the provincial satellite TV stations in the country. It was also known as Jiangnan Satellite TV, which was jokingly called Chili TV. The broadcast time had also been set. It was set for the middle of next month. It would be broadcast once a week. It was prepared to take over the primetime slot on Friday night. However, the contract signed between the company and the television station was more complicated. It wasn't just a simple licensing broadcast. The relationship between the production company and the television station complemented each other. If the same program was broadcast on Chili TV, Mango TV, or Tomato TV, it would receive much more attention than on a weak provincial TV station like Daoist Satellite TV. The amount of money paid by the title sponsor and the special advertising sponsor was also very different. If a program with a rating of more than 2% was broadcast on Chili TV, the title sponsorship fee would go up to 100 million. If it was broadcast on Daoist Satellite TV, they would be stupid to give it 50 million. In addition, the television station said that they would pay the licensing fee to Tianguang Media. However, they couldn't ask the television station to give you a primetime slot and make you pay for it, right? A primetime slot was an investment worth tens of millions. Therefore, the television station definitely had to take a share of the advertising sponsorship. As the program producer, most of the money that Tianguang Media could earn came from the advertising sponsorship. The other half came from other aspects of copyright expansion, such as the licensing fee for on-demand broadcasting on video websites, and so on. If they had artistes under them, of course, they could also send them to their own program to familiarize themselves and make their own artistes popular. That was also a cash cow and could be considered a profit. Also, if this program achieved unprecedented success in the country, or if foreign companies recognized this model, the future copyright export would be another story. Chapter 995. After finalizing the television station, schedule, and sponsors, according to the contract signed by Chu Zijin and Chili Pepper TV, the basic title sponsorship fee was 100 million, and the 3 special sponsorship fees totaled 60 million, of which 60 million would be given to Chili Pepper TV. Chili Pepper TV bought, my God. The first season's copyright licensing fee was 40 million. Including the video website's licensing fee and on-demand share, it was estimated to be less than 40 million. Deducting the share to Chili Pepper TV, Tianguang Media's basic income was about 180 million. However, the entire program's production and publicity costs were calculated to be about 180 million. This included the rental of the venue, the construction of the stage equipment, the appearance fees of the celebrity artists, the travel and accommodation fees of the contestants, and various other coordination fees. On the surface, Tianguang Media might be able to break even after completing the entire project, with no profit or loss. As for exporting the copyright overseas in the future, it was something that could only be chanced upon and could not be considered a stable income. On the other hand, Chili Pepper TV was guaranteed to earn 20 million. Of course, doing business was not charity. Risks and benefits coexisted. What was mentioned before was the basic income, but if the program's ratings exceeded expectations, the various income would rise steadily. For example, if the average ratings reached 2%, it would be a guarantee. If the ratings reached between 2% and 5%, the sponsorship fee would increase by 10%. Chili Pepper TV's advertising fee would also increase by 10%, and the copyright licensing fee would increase by 5%. In the terms of the contract, if the national ratings exceeded 5% and the national online viewership and topic share exceeded 15%, the sponsorship fee would be doubled, and Chili Pepper TV's copyright licensing fee would also increase by 50%. At that time, even if they had to pay more to Chili Pepper TV, the overall plate would be bigger, and the profits that Tianguang Media could earn would be extremely impressive. At that time, what awaited Tianguang Media would be at least 200 million in net profit, as well as the expected income from overseas authorizations. Although Chu Zijin had just entered the industry, she had not let down Tianguang's trust in her to be able to perfect such a business model in such a short time. The first season of the program had a total of 8 episodes, and they were only recording 4 of them. They were waiting for the first and second episodes to be aired on the satellite to observe the specific effects, and then they could make changes to the content of the next 4 episodes. Of course, the people with special abilities that could be found at the moment could only last for 4 episodes. Now, the production team still had to continue planning and collect program materials from all over the country. Chen Guang had no opinion on the contract that Chu Zijin had signed. He was just worried that the ratings would not be satisfactory. It was a pity that although he was known as the strongest and most versatile variety king, he relied on his own unorthodox methods. It was a little difficult for him to give suggestions. Even if he studied hard and really had the ability to do so, he was not willing to spend his energy on it. His thinking was very simple. Since he had let Chu Zijin take over this responsibility, he would trust her 100% and let her do whatever she wanted. What if they accidentally created a huge IP worth billions of yuan? If the viewership ratings really collapsed, at worst, he would personally participate in the next 4 episodes. Can a person hold in their urine to death? Forget it, he didn't want to think so much. What he needed to think about now was how to deal with the trouble in front of him. He looked back silently at the bloody script in front of him, and then secretly looked at Jiang Yage, who was hiding in the other corner of the coffee shop and discussing with a red face, and Jin Shiyue, who had just arrived. He thought to himself, can I redo this script? A kissing scene is a kissing scene, I admit it. But what the hell are you doing? After defeating the opponent, spin 720 degrees under the restraint of the boxing ring guardrail for 180 seconds. Would your family stupidly stare at someone kissing on the screen for 3 minutes? Besides, have you ever seen someone kiss in circles while kissing? Gymnastics kissing? Chen Guang turned to look at Big Beard. Uncle? Big Beard Deng's face turned red. Don't look at me like that. I'm innocent too. After I finish filming this movie for Solomon, I've decided to shoot a gay movie without a female lead. I've even thought of the name, Brokeback Mountain. You are doing this to avoid Jiang Yage and Jin Shiyue? Yes. I am old and a little tired. Accompanying Gidge to study is really torturous. But isn't this a film made by the great director Li? Big Beard Deng stretched out 2 fingers. I will do too. I have talked to old Li about the copyright, and I will co-direct with him. Chen Guang silently grabbed his hand. I think you may need you want to be the male lead? No, I think you need an investor who is not short of money. As the two were talking, Jiang Yage pulled Jin Shiyue over. Big Beard, these are the last few scenes, let's hurry up and shoot today. Jin Shiyue wanted to say something, but stopped. Chen Guang and Deng Xiaozheng couldn't tell if she was looking forward to it or shy. Chen Guang coughed. I have a cold recently, so it is not suitable for kissing scenes. In fact, it was not that they could not shoot, but if they really shot it according to Jiang Yage's script, he was afraid that the old men in Yanjing would catch them on the spot for a wedding. Big Beard also pinched his fingers. Today is not an auspicious day for shooting, so it is not suitable to go out. It is better to stay at home. The two struggle did not have any effect, and the next morning, the rest of the crew was dragged to Wujing Film City. Ren Chong, Zhao Yueling, Zhou Ye, and the rest of the lead actors had already left the crew, and the next time they met would probably be when the film was edited and the cinema release was scheduled. Chen Guang pressed the makeup artist on the chair to touch up her makeup, and from time to time, he would secretly look at Jiang Yage and Jin Shiyue, who were also putting on makeup, and he could not help but feel a little strange. The stupid script written by Jiang Yage was rejected in the end. After his argument with Big Beard, they cut off the scenes that could not be shown on the big screen and compressed the crazy 180 seconds into 15 seconds. Stop joking, people would be scolded for being immoral if they spent dozens of dollars to enter the cinema with a close-up kissing scene for 3 minutes. So, it was not that the kissing scene could not be filmed, but at least it had to be done normally. His fight had also achieved some results, so it was not difficult to accept. But now, Chen Guang still could not relax, because he had never thought of shooting the kissing scene of Jin Shiyue and Jiang Yage at the same time on the same day. In the movie, Jin Shiyue played the role of his dead ex-girlfriend, and Jiang Yage played the role of Chen Guang's little fan who inspired him to fight again when he was middle-aged. The two characters appeared in the movie more than 10 years apart, and even in the movie, one of the scenes was at the beginning and the other at the end, so it did not feel out of place when it was filmed. But Chen Guang did not expect that when it came to the actual filming, things would rush, and people would chase people away. Unknowingly, it had become a kissing scene with both of them on the same day. This was their first kiss on screen. Although it was quite enviable to think about, it was actually very stressful and not happy at all. Instead, it was super awkward. If this kind of thing were to spread, wouldn't I be hacked to death? In addition, although there were not many people in the crew at this time, at least half of the people in the crew had left. But the rest of the guys might also be making up stories about me in their minds. Chen Guang turned his head and glanced at Yang Shi, who was secretly looking at him. Sure enough, even this guy had a meaningful smile on his face, let alone the others. Do you think I enjoy it? This is simply Shuraba, okay? Not knowing what Jin Shiyue and Jiang Yage were thinking at this time, Chen Guang pricked up his ears again and eavesdropped on their whispers. He thought that if Jin Shiyue felt embarrassed, then he would only shoot one scene today, and shoot the kissing scene with another person tomorrow. Although the old man had invincible acting skills, the old man was not ready to sacrifice for art. He could only drag it out for one day. Yage, when I kiss him later, do you think he will stick his tongue out? Sister Shiyue, don't worry. No. Jin Shiyue's tone was a little disappointed, but also a little relieved. No, with his temper, he definitely will. Then what should I do? I'm so embarrassed. I'm a little embarrassed. Jiang Yage patted Jin Shiyue's shoulder. Sister Shiyue, don't worry. Don't look at how scared you are now. When you give him a hug later, I guarantee that your mind will be blank. At that time, you just need to act as yourself. Big Beard will definitely not say anything. Even if you ask him to say in G, he won't dare. Jin Shiyue was relieved, then looked at Jiang Yage again. She wanted to say something but hesitated. That's good, but you... Jiang Yage understood. She knew that Sister Shiyue was a little embarrassed that she was shooting with Chen Guang first today, and then it was her turn later. Sister Shiyue, what are you thinking? Didn't we never share the cup when we drink together? Jin Shiyue suddenly realized, it seems so. But don't be too proud, I'll say the ugly words first. Anyway, I've made up my mind, when I shoot my scene later, I will deliberately NG 17 or 18 times. You are the one who is thin-skinned, so don't blame me for being ruthless. Jin Shiyue made a gesture to pinch Jiang Yage's waist. You? So sinister. Sorry for my rudeness. No, I want to NG too. Chen Guang decisively withdrew his power. He really couldn't listen anymore. His mind began to imagine the scene later. Big Beard was hysterically yelling NGs. Then, he gave the two of them a variety of fancy NGs from all sorts of angles, and then took advantage of them. He silently flicked his hair. Too handsome, too charming is also a great trouble. As he turned his head, he saw a group of people walking over from the other side of the set. In the lead was a handsome young man in a white suit. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.